8-year-old Steve Widnall, the manager of a supermarket, was shot dead in his store in Putney in South London. The object was robbery, but as you'll see, the criminals were either reckless, or they panicked, or else they killed quite casually, and presumably they might kill again. Our reconstruction begins on January the 30th, 11 days before the murder, with an incident in the store in Putney which may provide a motive for the killing which followed.
From Whiskey, receiving over. Can you go to the Presto supermarket, 62 the High Street, Putney? Report of an alarm bell ringing, over. Whiskey receiving 728. Premises of Presto's appear secure. Could you call a key holder out, please? From Whiskey, receiving over. Key holder on way, Whiskey out.
The key holder was the manager, Steve Widnall, and with the police called to another incident, Steve was alone when he arrived to switch off the alarm just before 11 o'clock. Steve knew the alarm had a tendency to go off without apparent cause, and with the police reassurance there'd been no break-in, it didn't occur to him that this was anything other than routine. Steve went to check exactly where in the supermarket the alarm had been triggered and arranged for an engineer to come and reset it.
Hello, mate. It's Presto's Putney here. We've had an alarm call.
Yes?
We'll have to get the engineer to reset it.
Right, your name, please?
Mr. Widnall, code 8759.
Widnall, OK. What zone went off?
24. It's the wine store.
Have you checked to see if anything set it off?
No, I'll do that now if you like.
Yes, please. I'll hold on for you.
OK, hang on.
On his way to check the store, Steve noticed that lights had been left on in the meat department. It was the first sign of anything out of the ordinary. The wine store was undisturbed.
Hello? Yeah, I've had a look and everything seems to be all right. Must have been a vibration or something set it off. Hang on, I just heard something. Must be someone on the premises. Get the police over here as quick as you can.
Put the phone down. Hurry up. Let's have it.
Knowing now that the police had been alerted, the gunmen were intent only on getting away. They left empty-handed.
Stay there.
When Steve heard the sound of a car starting, he felt it was safe to go to the window. He saw the gunman getting into a red Mark I Ford Capri. As the car turned into Putney High Street, he noticed half the registration. The car then turned left in the direction of Wandsworth.
Have you got a description or index, 728, over?
Two coloured men made off in red Capri, part index 607 in November. Car has a black vinyl roof, black grille on the rear window, headed east down Montserrat Road. One man armed, believed with a sawn-off shotgun. First male, 6'2", aged early 20s. Second of similar description, Whiskey 2 out.
Steve took the following week off work. He'd been badly shaken by the ordeal and he needed time to recover. His fiancée, Wendy Sanderson, remembers he didn't talk much about what had happened. She thought to save her from worry. The couple planned to marry in a few weeks' time, and they were looking forward to setting up home and starting a family together. It's Monday, the 10th of February, 11 days after the confrontation with the gunman. It's Steve Widnall's first day back at work. Wendy also worked at Presto's on the provisions counter. During the afternoon, Steve and Wendy took time off for an appointment with a local building society. They'd seen a two-bedroomed flat in Norbury they hoped to buy. When they returned to the store, Wendy left their car parked outside the rear goods entrance. It's now 10 to 7 that evening. The store closes at 6 on a Monday, and by now everybody had gone home except Wendy, who was waiting for Steve to finish locking up.
Wendy?
Are you ready now?
I'll just go and finish locking the stock room, and then I better go and lock the car park. I'll see you around the back in a moment.
OK, I'll wait for you by the back door.
OK.
Normally, Steve set the alarm and left the store by the front entrance. And he was intending to do this after he'd locked the car park. As Wendy waited, the sequence of events began that would cost Steve his life.
Don't worry. Everything's going to be all right.
Steve, there's someone looking in at the back door.
OK, babe. While we're here, I'll zip out the back and lock up the car park.
Steve wasn't concerned, as there were often vagrants around at the back of the store.
Oh, babe, it's 7 o'clock already.
Stay there. The money. Open the safe. The money.
Don't hurt him! He'll give you the money!
Get the keys.
I can't get through.
Steve Widnall was shot in the back at point-blank range as he lay helplessly on the floor. Wendy was forced at gunpoint to search through her dying fiancé's pockets for keys to the safe. But the safe could only be opened by combination. There were no keys. They left, Wendy believes, heading in the direction of Lacey Road.
Hold on, babe, hold on. It's going to be all right. Hold on. Please, please.
Within seconds of being shot, Steve Widnall was dead. Well, leading this inquiry is Detective Superintendent Derick Todd. The first question is why they needed to kill him. Has any motive come to light?
No, there's no reason at all. All that we know is that we think the motive was robbery.
How certain are you that it was the same two men in both incidents?
We're pretty certain. The description given by Mr. Widnall in the first incident ties pretty closely to that of one of the men on the second
Yes, we have on the screen there Steve's identikit picture from that first incident.
Yes, the man was 6'2" and aged between 20 and 22 years, and that resembled very closely the description given by Wendy on the second incident.
Yes, we have the artist's impression there from Wendy, and that's her description from the man from the second incident, who you think is the same man.
Yes, I do. The only slight difference, as one can see, is the hair. Quite clearly, in the second incident, the man had ringlets.
What about the man who shot Steve? We have Wendy's description of him too.
Yes, he was much shorter, about the same height, about 5 feet, same age, I should say, 5 feet 7 or 8 in height.
But that's the most detail you could get.
That's right. She couldn't identify him at all.
Now, I know there are a number of things which actually baffle you about this crime. What are they?
Well, the main thing is the fact that the men were at the back door at all. Steve Widnall usually left the shop by the front door, and we just cannot understand why the men should be waiting at the back.
So it's quite likely somebody would have seen people loitering around at the back.
Well, that's right. They certainly wouldn't have known at what time he was likely to come out the back, if at all. And we just feel that they must have been there for some time, and yet we found nobody who actually saw them there.
And Steve was shot at close range, so somebody should have seen perhaps somebody with blood-stained clothing.
Well, that is right. According to what Wendy told us, one of the men went through Steve's pockets, and quite clearly he would be heavily bloodstained, certainly in the arm area.
Now, the gun they used was a sawn-off shotgun.
That is correct.
Using quite unusual ammunition, you think? One of these two cartridges here?
Yes, that is correct. The scientists have been able to tell us it's one of those two. It's Mionchi make. It's an Italian make imported into this country. And certainly one of the two is quite unusual in the home counties.
So what you need really is an arms dealer, perhaps, who remembers selling that.
Well, that's right. Two things, really. One, any arms dealer who remembers selling this type of ammunition to our suspects, or indeed anybody who has ammunition like this and have had it stolen and haven't reported it to police.
Do you have any theories on how the two men got into the supermarket on the first incident?
We can only assume that they hid in the shop while it was actually open. There's certainly no sign of forced entry anywhere.
Because their car must have been parked outside for some time. It was quite distinctive, wasn't it?
Well, that's right. I mean, we're baffled about that as well, the fact the car must have been there for some time. The car is a red Ford Capri with a black vinyl roof. It has quite distinctive black slats on the rear window and 2 aerials at the front.
And Steve saw half the number plate?
Yes, he did. 607N November, but we have established that that is a false number.
Right. Well, let's hope you can call and help us with something. The number here, if you can help, is 01811 8055. You can ring in absolute confidence. Or you can call the incident room at Earlsfield Police Station on 01947 6121. That's 01947 6121.
Our next film is about the sad death of Lorna Hayles, sometimes known as Lorna Black, a bubbly, exuberant young woman who, underneath the smiles, may have been rather lonely. She had a 12-year-old son and seemed upset that his adoptive parent was taking him to live abroad. To the world, she remained vivacious and energetic. She was very small, incidentally, just 5 feet tall. Now, around the 1st of August, perhaps as the result of an argument that got out of hand, someone who probably knew her killed her by plunging a carving fork into her neck. The reconstruction begins, though, 1 month after that, on the afternoon of Friday, the 29th of August, in South London. Tasman Road in Brixton. Police were called to investigate a swarm of flies at number 5. Lorna hadn't been seen for weeks and her neighbours were concerned. She was lying on the bedroom floor and forensic tests showed she'd been there since the beginning of the month. She was probably killed on Friday, the 1st of August.
How's Innocent Room? Can I help you?
Detectives have had a great deal of cooperation. Everyone liked Lorna, and they can find no reason for her murder. But maybe you can fill some crucial gaps in the calendar they've built up of her final weeks. This is a week before she died, the City of London, on Thursday, July the 24th. Lorna arrived for work as usual at Call Quick Printers in Chamomile Street, but suddenly packed in her job. Before she left that day, she was her normal, talkative self, and this colleague remembers her saying she was planning a fundraising barbecue for her local Labour Party. To make friends and earn a little extra cash, Lorna helped out in the Brixton Town Hall Social Club. She was last seen here on Friday evening, the 25th of July. The day after, on Saturday the 26th, she came here to Young's Court in Battersea. She still had the keys to her old flat here. She'd sublet the place, but now still called round from time to time.
Part 3 of the Best of Rod. We start with a top 5 hit from the beginning of 1978.
Hi.
Hot Legs.
How are you?
All right.
All right?
Yeah.
Great.
I just come to pick up some things.
That's very good.
This man, Albert, was her tenant, and he recalls that Lorna was planning to go out that afternoon and had called round for a special dress.
Hey, girl, where are you going dressed up like this?
I'm going to a fashion party.
Great.
Does I look nice?
You look beautiful.
This photo shows Lorna in that very dress. She'd hardly be missed in all that striking gold. And yet, still detectives don't know whose party or whose fashion parade Lorna was going to that day. The next day, Sunday, was the day of Lorna's barbecue. But curiously, at 2:30, just before it was due to start, she asked a fellow Labour Party helper to give her a lift here to Clapham Road.
Goodbye. Thanks for the lift. I'll see you later.
All right, see you, Lorna. Bye-bye.
She said she had to go to Putney. It may not be significant, but this is another gap in Lorna's last week. Did she go to Putney that afternoon? She could have taken the Victoria or Northern lines to almost anywhere from Stockwell Tube. By 9 o'clock that evening, her barbecue was almost over, except for 2 couples who arrived late. They apparently knew Lorna, but no one else there knew them. The police say they want them to call in to Crimewatch, simply so they know who these people were. Clapham Common on Wednesday the 30th of July. It's now about 2 days before Lorna died. The police know she came here that afternoon to hire some videotapes. She had no work that week, and detectives would like to know how else she filled her time.
Hello.
Even without work, Lorna always kept herself busy. On Thursday lunchtime at the laundrette in Landor Road, these women remember her calling to see if they were free for a sales demonstration at her home that evening.
Are you coming to my handweight party tonight?
I can't, I've got to have my hair re-permed.
But can you still order what we wanted? Bleach and a floor cleaner?
I suppose I could do.
Oh, thanks, Lorna.
Bye.
All right, bye, Lorna. Probably see you again tomorrow.
For Lorna, the salesman's visit that evening was another chance to have people round to her house. But though she'd invited others, no one else turned up for the demonstration. The salesman recalls Lorna seemed quite relaxed.
Very clean.
That's basically it. This will last you in the course of about a year.
The salesman left by 9:15, and as far as is known, no one else called round that evening, and Lorna didn't go out. Tasman Road on the morning of Friday, August the 1st. Lorna's papers were delivered, and then there's one last sighting of her as she popped into the laundrette again. As always, she put on a bubbly, cheerful and optimistic front.
I've got an interview in North London with this writer. As a travelling nanny, it means travelling all over the place.
That sounds great. Good luck.
Thanks very much.
Let us know how you get on. Bye.
Oh, by the way, I've ordered your cleaning stuff.
Right, thanks. Bye.
Cheers.
Now, Mr. Richards, that was a curious thing that Lorna said just at the end there. She said that she was going for this job as a travelling nanny. She already knew, I gather, that she hadn't got that job.
Yes, that's true, but Lorna's the sort of girl who'd find it very difficult to admit failure. She wanted success.
She wanted friends.
Yes.
You're pretty sure it was one of the friends that killed her. Now, why do you think that? Why was it someone who knew her?
Well, in most murder cases, of course, it's a friend or somebody who they know. In Lorna's case, we do know she was cautious. She did not open the door to anyone. She either peeped round the curtains before she let anyone in, and I don't think she would let anyone in at that time of the night unless she knew them well.
Now, as I said in the film, you've had enormous cooperation. Her friends have tried to help when they've known you've wanted them. You've traced dozens already, I gather.
Yes, we have. We've spoken to more than 200 people.
But there are still others you need to get in contact with you?
Yes, there are. There are some, I'm sure, who don't even know we're making our inquiries.
Any in particular?
Yes, well, I have a calendar here, which used to hang in her kitchen. And as you can see, on the 9th of August, is detailed a wedding.
Saturday the 9th of August, wedding, it says. She never went, of course, because by then she was dead. But who invited her?
That's exactly what we want to know.
Right. That gold dress she was wearing, now obviously that was very, very distinctive. Nobody's come forward who saw her in that.
No, nobody at all, and I don't believe she would have gone very far away from Battersea, possibly on that Doddington estate where she used to live. Somebody there can come forward and help us.
Right. You've brought an address book?
Yes, I have. This address book was from her handbag, and it shows a party.
There it is in pencil. A party on the 2nd of August, 1986. So, who invited Lorna Hayles to a party on the 2nd of August, 1986? Whoever it was, please contact us. Of course, the other thing from the film were those latecomers to the barbecue.
Yes, we still don't know who they are. They could fill in a very important part of the last days of her life. And it's vital that they come forward and talk to us.
Who are they? Any idea?
I've no idea who they are. These are other friends who we just cannot find at the moment.
Now, I gather you have some reason to believe that this was an accidental killing. In other words, whoever did it may not have intended, really, death to be the outcome.
Yes, I've got that very much in mind. And anybody who perhaps is watching this programme, he could rest assured that if he contacts us, we can think it may have been an accident. We're quite willing to talk about that. I think it was a temper and perhaps an immediate accident, an accident with one stab wound.
Well, if whoever did it is watching, do please call. Obviously, it's better if you call the police and they call on you. If you've got suspicions, then if you were involved in any of the incidents that we've shown, if you're a friend of hers, if in any way you can help, here's the number, 01811 8055, 01811 8055, or of course you can call the incident room. That's on 01 326 1212. That's 01 326 1212. It's just over 6 weeks now since a private detective called Daniel Morgan was found dead in a car park of a pub in South London. It was gruesome. He'd been killed with an axe. The police described the case as a sticker. In other words, it's one they just can't solve. For nearly 30 hours, they did hold for questioning Daniel Morgan's partner, John Rhys, and 2 of Rhys's relations. And, as you may have read, 3 policemen were also questioned, but they've been eliminated from the murder inquiry. With nothing else to go on, maybe you can help. Our film starts in Sydenham, South London. Daniel Morgan loved the drama of being a private eye. He saw himself as a gumshoe in a TV series, and he liked to boast about the glamour of the job.
It's 1:10.
Collecting bad debts or seeking evidence of a divorce case. But it did involve a lot of cloak and dagger work, and it could have made him many enemies. Apart from his work, Daniel Morgan's abiding interest was fast cars. He had several old ones kept in various places in South London, and he was devoted to his 2 young children.
Come on, Daddy, come on.
Daniel's colleagues describe him as a workaholic. It was nothing for him to drive in his BMW, to do a job in East Anglia, maybe go on to another in the Midlands, and perhaps manage a third in the West Country, all in a single day. They were mostly dirty jobs, though, that other people didn't want to do. He specialised in what are known as motor snatchbacks, repossessing cars for which finance payments hadn't been maintained.
Another bloody nutcase.
Yeah, I had one of them yesterday. I've checked them figures. They seem okay.
Daniel Morgan and his partner John Rhys had been in business together for some 6 years, and it made them a good living.
There's no doubt by tonight.
But it wasn't just the money, it was the excitement that made him work so hard. Summons serving, bailiffing, carrying out court orders, which are the stock in trade of the modern private detective. A lot of it caused distress, but he seemed to relish the almost unreal power it gave him.
What do you want?
You know what we want. It's all legal, and you've got to let her go.
On the day before he died, Daniel left his office in High Street, Thornton Heath, at about 5 o'clock. He'd spent most of the day there, but police are anxious to know where he went for the next 2 hours.
Listen, okay, lads, listen. What are you having anyway?
By 8 that Monday evening, he was drinking in the Golden Lion pub in Sydenham with his partner, Jonathan Rhys, and 4 other men.
Large brandy, brandy and soda, a couple of pints of bitter, and white wine and soda, one yourself.
Next day, Tuesday, he and a colleague came back to the office at around 4:30 after spending the day in Slough. They were in buoyant mood when they went in to see one of their staff.
What kept you? Traffic on the bloody motorway, what do you think? Anyway, I've got 16 warrants and some off for tomorrow.
Good. I've got some money there. £70, £1,100. Okay?
Right.
At about 5:30, after making a few phone calls and with all the money in his pocket, Daniel left the office. He and John Rhys had arranged to meet a contact later that evening, again in the Golden Lion.
I'm off now, John. See you in the pub at 7:30. Okay?
Yeah, okay, see you then.
But Daniel had another appointment first. He met a woman here in Regan's Wine Bar in Brigstock Road, not far from his office. There were only a handful of other people there. Possibly someone was watching them. Daniel said he had to go early because he was due at the Golden Lion later on. The couple left the wine bar shortly after 7. Was he perhaps followed from here? If not, who else knew where he was going next? Only one other witness has been traced so far who saw Daniel between 7 and 7:30.
Oh, Daniel, just the man. Could you give us a hand with the boards? Cheers. Thank you.
This is just near his office in Thornton Heath High Street.
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
John Rhys had already parked his car at the front of the pub. Daniel Morgan put his car at the back. The man they were supposed to meet didn't turn up, and the two of them drank alone. One witness remembers two people of Mediterranean appearance looking intently through the window. There weren't many other drinkers in the saloon bar, though there was a ladies' darts team in the back room. Were you there that night?
Yeah.
The barmaid at the Golden Lion remembers Daniel buying his last round.
There we go, lad. Give us a white wine and soda, brand new and Coke, and a couple of packs of crisps, yeah?
Right, I'm off then. See you tomorrow.
John Rhys told the police he left to go to his car at the front of the pub at about 9 p.m. He assumed Daniel was headed for the rear car park. But did Daniel go out the back way to the car park? And did he go with someone, or did he meet his killer in the dark? Close to his car, someone struck him from behind and then hit him 3 more times. Lying next to Daniel Morgan's body were the 2 packets of crisps, which police think were for his children. Douglas Campbell is looking for anyone who was in the Golden Lion in Sydenham Road on that evening, but you're also trying to find who sold this axe. Now, this actually isn't the murder weapon.
Now, that is a replica we bought, but it's identical to the murder weapon.
And it has this orange wax on the top here. It's Chinese.
It's a Chinese axe. They're imported into this country in the thousands, but what is more significant is the way it's taped. It's got 2 elastoplasts on the handle.
As though to be gripped, like that.
That's right, as if to assist the grip or to stop the perspiration from somebody's hands, allowing it to slip. I would ask anybody who saw that axe or sold it in the days leading up to the 10th of March, or who saw it with the plaster on it, to let me know. It might have been left in the back of a car or in the boot.
Now, you have a photo in your possession. You're trying to trace the subject.
Yes, we have a photo of a young lady. It came into our possession, and 6 weeks into the inquiry, we're still unable to identify her.
She may be quite irrelevant, of course.
Might have nothing to do with Danny Morgan at all, but I would ask the girl to come forward so at least we can eliminate her or know exactly who she is.
And a watch was stolen.
A Rolex watch was stolen from the deceased body.
Right, identical to this one.
It is a Rolex.
Okay, you believe that somebody must know, even though this could have been a lone attack, you believe somebody either knows or suspects?
Well, in all major crimes, I feel that obviously there's the killer or the criminal, but there's always some other person who suspects that that person is responsible, and I would ask that person, in this case, to come forward to help us solve this brutal killing.
All right, well, the number to call here is 01811 8055, 01811 8055, or you could call the Metropolitan Police at Sydenham on 01697 9212. That's 01 if you're outside London, 697 9212. Start, and has been ever since.
and the land is dark. Oh, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't. Darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me.
How could I have had my son taken like this, taken away from me like this? And what sort of people do this? It almost defies, the feeling defies description almost. It's cruel, it's evil, it's awful. He harmed nobody. Daniel was a good, honest, hard-working and a nice man.
Yeah, firmed up all the contacts for Newcastle, and it's pretty well all arranged.
37-year-old Daniel Morgan was a private investigator in southeast London. That night, after work, he dropped into the Golden Lion in Sydenham for a drink with his business partner.
I'll have a pint of bitter and just a brandy and lemonade for me, please.
So you reckon we'll have it all wrapped up in the day, then?
Oh, right.
Enjoy a drink there, sir.
Thank you.
He was popular, Daniel. He was very uncomplicated and very easygoing. But his job took him out and about quite a lot, and I think he quite liked that. I believe he was very successful. Worked very hard.
Have you collected the money yet?
Yes, sir. Dropping it off tomorrow. Fancy another one?
I really ought to go soon.
All right, then.
Yes, sir.
Brandy and lemonade, and bitter, and a couple of packets of plain crisps, please.
There were 2 packets of crisps found where his body was, and one obviously was for Sarah and the other for my grandson Daniel.
Gotta go. Give me a call tomorrow.
Yeah, sure. Watch how you drive.
Yeah.
His partner left about 9 o'clock. Daniel finished his drink and a short time later left through the rear of the pub into the car park. At about 9:30, a large, pale-coloured car was seen leaving the pub car park.
Joe, I think there's a body or a dummy out in the car park.
You're kidding me?
No, I'm not. Come and have a look.
All right. You're right, Neil. Calm down.
Oh, jeez. We better call the police.
Sometimes it seems years and years, centuries away, and at other times becomes very vivid. It's the impact it makes. I can almost hear that phone call.
Excuse me. Can we get back from
I can't move on. I want to move on so desperately. I mean, I'm soon be 75, and I just would love to have a few years of peace of mind.
Dave Cook, the reason this case has been so controversial from almost the start is that one of the investigating officers, one of the detectives involved in the early part of this inquiry, finished up running Daniel's agency. I mean, fishy or what?
We acknowledge there were some difficulties in the early stages of this investigation, but I'm here tonight to re-investigate it with the advantage of 15 years of knowledge, and hopefully through this appeal get the nugget of information which will solve this case.
Daniel's partner is in prison. now? Again, that must raise questions. I assume it's nothing to do with this.
Absolutely. His role as a private detective, he planted drugs in a woman with a view to getting custody of the child on behalf of the woman's husband. He's now doing 7 years.
Did Daniel get involved in stuff like that, or was he clean, as far as you know?
Daniel was a family man. He may not have played by all the rules in his role as a private detective, but I certainly would never describe him as a criminal.
So, at the moment, with no evidence that Daniel was ever involved in criminal activity, no motive, presumably, how can people help 15 years later?
The Metropolitan Police have got a reward of up to £50,000 for any person...
50,000?
50, for any person who can give me information which would lead to the arrest and charge of those responsible. 15 years on, there's someone out there who has a relationship with someone in the past. Their allegiance has now changed. Come forward, give me the information that you've got that will allow me to solve this case.
It's an extraordinary cold-blooded killing. He was killed with an axe to his head, was left embedded in his head. I mean, somebody really, really wanted him dead. Even at this remove, are people going to be worried, do you think, about coming forward?
People always have concerns, but I'd like to make it quite clear, we're here to help them as much as anyone else. There is £50,000 available. You can call us in confidence, in complete confidence, and we'll treat whatever information you give in that way.
We reconstructed, interesting thing about a car leaving the pub, the Golden Lion in Sydenham. You don't know where that car came from, or you don't know where it was going, you don't know if it was involved in this at all. We obviously need to trace that.
Yes, we're quite confident not everyone in and around the pub that evening came forward. A number of people who still may know something that happened, we would like them to call us this evening. And that includes the driver of that vehicle. They may have been involved in the murder, they may just merely be a witness. We don't know, we would certainly like to.
10th of March 1987, a long time ago, but of course anybody who was in the Golden Lion, this case was in the headlines so much, they'll certainly have remembered the fact that they were there in Sydenham that night, not something they'll have forgotten. Even if they don't think that they saw anything important, you still want them to call?
Absolutely. The information they hold may be of no relevance to them, but it's certainly relevant to me now.
OK, and it could, of course, make somebody £50,000. Call here in the studio, or if you prefer, you can call direct the incident room on 020 8358 155.
Our first case tonight is the murder of Cathy Walsh. Cathy was 60 years old, a rather sad woman in some ways, and yet no one has yet provided any clue or reason as to why she should have been murdered. In 1986, she'd been thrilled to become a grandmother when her daughter, Pat, gave birth to little Amy. The child became Cathy's pride and joy, and there were few other joys in her life. She'd been quite ill in the past few months. She had severe arthritis, and only 3 weeks before she died, she'd been in hospital with a heart condition. Our reconstruction begins on the day before she died, October the 20th, in Tooting in South London. Cathy had lived in this street for over 30 years. Life wasn't easy for her. For 2 months, her gas supply had been cut off, and she was always short of money. She was well known in the area, as she had a habit of asking favours of some of the local shopkeepers and this garage a few yards away from her home.
Here she comes again, Vic. I bet she wants to use the phone.
Morning. All right, if I use the phone again?
Yes.
Today, shares take another tumble all over the world. In the wake of last week's hurricane, the cowboys start moving...
Cathy's daughter, Pat, lived a few miles away in South Croydon.
Over who speaks what? Once again this morning, shares have nosedived on the London stock market.
Hello? Hello, Pat, love?
Hello, Mum. Why haven't you phoned? Haven't you been well? She usually phoned her daughter every day. Look, why don't you come over tomorrow for a nice bath while your gas is off?
Well, I suppose it would do my back good.
Well, ring me before you come, and I'll make sure I don't go out.
All right, dear. See you in the morning.
Bye, then. Pat was very close to her mother, but there were still some things she didn't know about her. Opposite Tooting Station on Mitcham Road is the Railway Bell pub. Cathy used to come here regularly, usually on her own. But staff at the Railway Bell say she met a young man there several times until about 2 weeks before her death. And another woman who knew Cathy believes she may have seen them together one more time.
See you on Tuesday night. Bye.
Mrs. Robichaud overheard Cathy arranging to meet him the next day. No one knows who this young man is, and police are anxious to trace him. The next day, Cathy had been in a lot of pain and had spent much of Tuesday in bed.
I'm back.
She'd sent her lodger, Rudy, out for some shopping.
Here's your vodka and cigarettes. Don't forget to put the latch down tonight.
No, I won't.
Rudy works night shifts and was out all that night.
Bye, dear.
See you in the morning.
82, 82. 71, 71.
But despite her illness, she was seen later that evening at the Granada Bingo on Mitcham Road. She went several times a week and would usually sit by herself. Later, Cathy was seen sitting opposite a woman. Although they didn't appear to be together, police still need to trace her.
2 and 6, 26.
How are you tonight, Cathy?
Not too bad. See you later.
A friend of Cathy's remembers she seemed unhappy that night. Later, she was seen in the foyer, and she seemed to be waiting. About 10 minutes later, 2 women saw someone who looked like Cathy boarding the number 44 bus.
Yeah. Haven't any money.
Cathy was in the habit of not paying her fare. She seemed flustered and upset. They remember her getting out her pension books.
Would you give this to the bus driver? It's my address. All right.
She got off the bus on the corner of Gorringe Park Avenue near her home. And that was the last time anyone saw her alive. Mrs. Johnson lives several doors away from Cathy's house. Much later that night, she'd been finding it difficult to sleep. The screams went on for several minutes. They seemed to come from the direction of Cathy's house. Just around the corner from Cathy's house, the milkman remembers seeing a brown Datsun parked across the pavement. There was someone in the passenger seat. At about the same time, a paperboy who passed Cathy's house remembers seeing the curtains open and her bedroom light on, but there was nobody in the room. Later that morning, when her body was found, the curtains were drawn and the light was off. Cathy had been strangled and left in her bed. Well, Mr. Gibb-Gray, do you think she knew whoever it was who killed her?
Yes, I think it's very likely that she did know who killed her. When we got to the house, there was no sign that anyone had entered forcibly. No windows had been broken, and the door, in fact, was intact.
And there seemed to be no motive at all.
It's a brutal and motiveless murder.
She didn't have any money, so...
She didn't have any money, no, that's right, and we can't think of any reason why anyone should want to kill her. She was a harmless old lady.
How certain are you that it was Cathy on the 44 bus that night?
Well, we have 2 people who say they saw her, and they're fairly certain that they saw her. What we'd like to do is hear from the bus driver who drove that number 42 on that particular evening. We'd also like to hear of anyone else who's on that bus who may well have seen Cathy. And the questions I would ask there is, was she alone? And when she got off the bus, did she turn left or right? Did she go home, or did she go back towards Tooting and maybe to a public house and meet somebody there?
Right. Just to assure the bus driver who must have received that envelope, but that he'll come forward in confidence, won't
Yes, he may well have committed some minor disciplinary offence against the London Transport Board, but what we're investigating here is a very serious case of murder.
It's odd that Cathy didn't pay her fare, because in fact she had a bus pass anyway, didn't she?
That's strange, and we really can't account for that, and that may well account for her rather odd behaviour on the bus. Or, of course, she may well have been anticipating meeting someone later that evening and may have been slightly worried or concerned about it.
Now, the bus pass went missing. The other thing that went missing was one of her pension books. This, in fact, is not a pension book, it's a mobility allowance book. And this is a replica of what has gone missing. Do you think whoever killed her is the one who stole it?
It's possible. We don't know that it's been stolen. It hasn't been cashed since that time. It's worth about £88 a month. This one has a unique feature on it. It's Aken, A-K-E-N, corner, rather than Amen corner, that part of Tooting where Cathy would have cashed it.
So that makes it quite distinctive.
So we'd like to hear from anyone who's seen it since that time.
Right. Now, that young man, maybe she was going to meet him later that evening and maybe that's why she was flustered. You want him to come forward?
Yes, we'd like him to come forward. Again, he's got something important to tell us. He saw her on that Monday afternoon, and firm arrangements appear to have been made for him to meet her on the Tuesday. We'd like him to come forward so we can eliminate him from the investigation.
And perhaps anybody who's been drinking at the Railway Bell in the past might recognise him too.
That's right.
The other important thing is the photograph. The one thing you couldn't trace or identify in her flat was who the person is in this particular photograph.
Yes, that's very interesting because all her friends and indeed her family have looked at that photograph and they don't know the person. We would like the person whose photograph that is to come forward. It's probable that the photograph was taken in a public house or maybe a hotel in the London area or the south of England. We'd like to eliminate that person from this investigation.
Right. And finally, at 7 o'clock on the morning of her death, the paper boy saw the light on and then later the light was off again, and we saw a brown Datsun waiting on the corner of Bruce Road, perhaps waiting for somebody to come out of the house. Do you think there's a link there?
Well, that's very significant because the owner of that car clearly has something important to say, because if the paper boy is right, it means that at that particular time there was somebody still in the house, and he may well have left at the same time as the person who owned that car, or indeed, of course, drove that car, was there. So we would, of course, like to hear from him.
All right, Mr. Gibbgray, thank you very much. There are a lot of points there. As always, the number to the studio here is 018118055 if you can help, or you can call the incident room at Mitcham direct, and that is 01541 2552. That's 01541 2552. Just before Christmas. Shortly after midnight on Monday the 19th of December, 22-year-old photographer Lorraine Benson was murdered after spending the evening at a staff Christmas party in Clapham in South London. The tragedy is the greater because shortly before she was killed, several witnesses saw or heard things that made them suspicious, but they weren't sure enough to call the police. It's a message to all of us. If any of us sees or hears something that worries us, always notify the police. They really won't think you're wasting their time. Because there are so many clues and sightings of Lorraine that night, there's a better than usual chance that Crimewatch viewers may be able to help identify the killer. Our reconstruction begins to the south of London in Croydon, where Lorraine had been working as a photographer.
Just keep nice and still. A nice big smile for Mum. Come on.
Lorraine worked for a company called Pastel Portraits, which specialises in taking family portraits in department stores. Over the Christmas period, she was based at the Children's World store in Croydon.
And smile. Right? Lovely. Hang on.
Lorraine had a special way with children. She was good at her job and determined to do well.
Beautiful.
When Lorraine left work at 5:30 that Monday evening, she was carrying a carrier bag and a blue holdall with a change of clothes in it. She probably went by train to Clapham Junction. Perhaps you saw her. She'd been invited to a staff Christmas party at the Arding and Hobbs department store in Clapham, where she used to work. She changed out of her work clothes somewhere en route, but the blue holdall has so far not been found. Lorraine was due to go back to work at Arding and Hobbs just after Christmas. She was looking forward to it and seemed to enjoy the party, meeting old friends again. Seven miles away, Sarah Patterson was leaving Raynes Park Station on her way home.
Well, I've been out for the night with some friends to the cinema, and I arrived back on the train from Waterloo at about 11:40. I came onto the tunnel, across the road, and began to walk down Coombe Lane.
Can I walk you home? What's your name? Oh, sorry, I'm Jeff.
I'm Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
The man followed Sarah as she turned into Durham Road. She remembers he was well-spoken and had a nervous laugh. He told her he'd just lost his job in the city.
I used to work for Walker Grenville.
Sarah crossed the road and the man followed no further.
Bye.
Will you go out with me, Sarah?
At about the same time, Lorraine and her friends were leaving the party in Clapham. Lorraine asked two of her friends to walk her to the station. The train for Raynes Park was the 11:36 from Waterloo to Chessington South. It arrived at Clapham Junction at 11:44. George Holdsworth had just left the same party. He was looking for a smoking carriage. George and Lorraine had worked together at Arding and Hobbs.
Take care.
What are you doing on this train then?
I'm going to see my mates. Staying the night in his place.
Oh, really? What's that for?
He's gone off to Australia tomorrow, so I'm going down the airport to see him off.
The train arrived at Raynes Park at 11:53. George remembers the station was almost empty. As they walked out of the station, Lorraine told George she had to ring her friend to ask him to meet her. So George left her at the phone box.
All right, take care then.
Yeah, and you. Happy Christmas.
All right.
Hello, Lottie. It's Lorraine. Look, I'm down at the station. Can you ask Peter to come down and meet me?
Yeah, I'm sorry, love. He's not back yet.
Oh, it's all right. It doesn't matter. Look, I'll start walking up on my own. See you later.
Lorraine was never to get there. But several people did see her as she headed down Coombe Lane towards the A3. These skateboarders and this minicab driver were about half a mile further down Coombe Lane and near the road Lorraine was heading for. As the cab driver drove round the Cops Hill roundabout, he saw a man standing on the corner. The man seemed anxious to hide his face. Back near the station, bus driver Brian Laverick was coming to the end of his route.
I come out of Raynes Park and turn right about 12:10 at night. I was empty, out of service, no lights on the bus whatsoever. I was travelling along Coombe Lane towards Kingston. Then I noticed a girl walking in a white mank. She was walking alone, she was on her own.
Joseph Cottrell lives halfway down Coombe Lane. Something about that angry shout worried him, and without stopping to put his shoes on, he went outside to investigate. He crossed the road and watched for some time what he thought was perhaps a couple making up after an argument. But he still felt uneasy. He put on his shoes to go out again. Now the street was empty. Alan Fuentes is a Hackney cab driver.
I got to Cambridge Road and I see this couple. The young lady was just standing there, like, facing outwards, and the fella was waving his arms about like they were arguing. they didn't show out, so I just carried on sort of thing, and that was it.
And one last disturbing sighting. A couple were driving home past the Copsehill roundabout.
Do you think she's all right?
Yeah, she's probably drunk.
At about midnight, Jason and Nathan Cook were still skateboarding opposite Cambridge Road.
Jason, did you hear that?
The scream seemed to come from the direction of the allotments. Next morning, police found Lorraine's body near a path that runs alongside these allotments. She'd been strangled.
Well, Detective Superintendent David Fielding's in charge of this case. Just to get it absolutely clear to start with, was Lorraine the sort of girl to go off with somebody?
She certainly wouldn't. Lorraine put up a tremendous fight. Her honour was very important to her, and of course she paid the ultimate price. She lost her life. And what I feel that someone certainly knows who killed Lorraine. And I ask them to think about it, call us tonight.
The sad thing is that the whole story is full of if-onlys. So many people saw Lorraine in circumstances that concerned them but didn't do anything about it.
Well, Lorraine telephoned home, spoke to her father at about 8:30 that night to say that she wouldn't be home that night. She arrived at Raynes Park Station hoping to be met, and then would walk along to her ultimate destination. Unfortunately, her friend wasn't there to meet her. After that, she made a telephone call, and then she walked down this very wide, brightly lit road facing the oncoming traffic, so she minimised the risks. Yes.
You've seen the sightings that those witnesses saw. What are the gaps now in what you know about Lorraine's walk down Coombe Lane?
Well, we know about the confrontation that she had about half a mile down, but I'm certain that other people in that area saw something suspicious. They may have seen Lorraine either on her own or being followed down the road or arguing with this man who we've seen on the video. And also, it's possible that someone else has seen this character who turned his back on the cab driver at the roundabout. And we want to know who he is and who is the man arguing with Lorraine.
Yes, anybody should come forward. They might have this vital piece of information that might trace this man. There's his description there. He's 6 foot tall, thin, hollow-cheeked, unshaven, dark collar-length, scruffy hair, well-spoken, and he calls himself Jeff. Do you think Jeff and the suspect could be the same man?
It's possible, but someone must know who Jeff is, and I would ask them, you know, come and see us. We've got to speak to him. Perhaps to eliminate
There's one
him.
more sighting which could be vital and took place 2 days before the murder on Saturday the 17th of December. A woman was cycling home down the pathway where Lorraine's body was found, and she remembers seeing a man who looked like a tramp and tending a fire. He stepped into her path and forced her to swerve. So again, that tramp could be, again, the same man as Jeff and the suspect you're looking for who was seen Lorraine.
Could be. We certainly want to know who the tramp is and who Jeff is, yes.
Well, finally, we still haven't found a belt that Lorraine was wearing that night. That could provide a clue if somebody could find that.
It's the one item or accessories that is missing, and we certainly want to find. It's possible that it's been thrown away or hidden even. So, yes, anyone who got any information about that, please come and see us.
If you recognise that or if you can help in any way, I know that the local people feel so strongly about this, they've got together to put up a reward to find whoever killed Lorraine. The number to the studio here is 018118055, or the direct line to the incident room at Wimbledon Police Station is 015411212. That's 015411212. If you know anything at all that might help, please do ring.
Our next case takes us to Suffolk. 3 months ago, on Saturday the 18th of February, late in the afternoon, after a day spent hunting for rabbits, Kevin Block and a friend decided to head for home. They were on the Earl of Stradbroke's estate, 12 miles south of Lowestoft.
Oh, Toe, come here.
At first, they thought they'd found a tailor's dummy. It turned out to be the body of 31-year-old Jeanette Kempton, known to friends as Jean. She'd disappeared from Brixton in South London 2 weeks before. This is Treherne Court on the Myattsfield estate in Brixton. It's 8:30 on Thursday morning, the 2nd of February, the last day Jean was seen alive. Jean had been divorced for several years, but for the sake of their 2 children, her ex-husband used to visit frequently and often stayed there overnight.
Did you see my sock?
No.
Come on, you two, get a move on. Bye, Mum, bye, Dad.
See you later.
Thursday was her ex-husband's day off work, and the pair of them went shopping on Brixton Road.
Hello, Dave. All right? Pint of bitter. Was it lager and light?
Yeah, lager and light.
Pint of lager and light as well.
Jean was a heavy drinker, often spending whole afternoons in the pub. When they started drinking at about 12:30, they were the only customers in the Loughborough, but they were soon joined by a friend.
All right.
All right.
Right, Trev.
What are you drinking, Jean?
Oh, lager and light.
Jean's friend had come to cash a cheque for £300.
Cheers. Here, look after this for us, Jean, will you?
Yeah, all right.
I'll only go and lose it.
Can you give us a couple of quid till Tuesday?
Yeah, all right, but I want it back Tuesday.
Yeah, I'll give it back to you.
The purse and contents have never been found.
Right. I'm going to go give the kids their tea. I'll come back, pick you up later.
All right.
All right. Ta-ra.
Ta-ra.
When he did come back, 3 hours later, Jean had gone. At 6 o'clock, her friend went with her to the Five Ways Florist, a few doors down from the pub in Loughborough Road. She was collecting a wreath for a funeral next day.
It's really nice. What do you think, Trev?
Yeah, it's all right.
It's really lovely. Cheers. Cheers, darling. Come on, look, I'm nearly finished. Let's go down the
I'm at the game. I don't want to go nowhere. Never mind the union.
Oh, come on. You're not going to leave me now, are you?
No, I'm not going to leave you. I'm just going home. You do what you want.
I'll finish my drink now. Come on, let's go down the union.
No, I don't want to go to the union. I've had enough, Jean.
Look, I'm sick of it in here. Look, I want to go down the union. Come with me
Well,
down the union.
Look, you go to the union. I've had enough. I'm out of the game.
At 7:15, they left the pub to go their separate ways. As far as is known, Jean never made it to the Union, nor any of the other pubs nearby. How did Jean make the journey from Brixton up to Suffolk, probably using the A12? And when she did so, was she alive or dead? This is the A12 at Wangford in Suffolk, a few hundred yards from where Jean's body was found. 3 days after Jean's disappearance, 2 local residents noticed a dark-coloured rental van with smoked glass rear windows and an 01 phone number in white.
What's somebody from London doing going down there?
Leslie Fairs, an estate worker, saw a stranger's car drive through Park Farm.
I was mixing up cattle food and heard the car come into the farmyard. I hadn't ever seen the car nor the 2 people in the car before, so I just walked out of the building further to get a better view as I disappeared into the distance into the estate.
2 hours on at Church Farm, another resident was 400 yards from where Jean would later be discovered.
Roger!
By the time his wife had come down, both the screaming and the music had stopped. 12 days later, Jean's body was discovered.
John Saunders, how many of Jean's friends and acquaintances have you managed to trace?
We've traced lots so far, but I feel that there are still people that we've yet to trace, and I would urge them to come forward and help us.
Now, a lot of those clues that we pointed out in the reconstruction could be spurious. Those two vehicles, the dark van, the white car, and the screams, could all be quite unconnected with the crime.
Yes, what we're particularly interested in, though, is who actually was in those vehicles. And as you say, they may well be unconnected, but we need the drivers of those to come forward for elimination purposes.
OK, that's the dark van in Middlebarn Lane. That's the afternoon of Sunday the 5th, the white car Monday the 6th, about 9:30, and whoever was larking about, if that's what it was, at 11:30 on Monday the 6th. A lot of Jean's possessions haven't been found. The coat, the stiletto, purse very much like this. Of course, that very distinctive wreath that she brought in Brixton, it might have been dumped somewhere. And jewellery, of which this is an imitation. This ring with a dark stone and imitation diamonds. This looks like it's got a sovereign in the middle of it, this bracelet.
Yes, it has, with a Britannia sovereign with the Queen's head on the other side. It's a gold 22-carat gate bracelet.
OK, and there are two plain gold rings, and obviously if a jeweller or someone else has been offered that as a group, it's pretty distinctive, isn't it?
Yes, they may well have gone to a jeweller, a dealer, or a pawnbroker.
People watching this, knowing the geography, may have ideas themselves of somebody who might be implicated. You'd like them to call?
Yes, certainly. Anything that they can tell us, obviously, will be treated confidentially. But
now, Crystal Palace was playing Ipswich around the time that she disappeared.
Yes, that was Saturday, the 4th of February, just 2 days after she was last seen.
OK, there might be just something in that. How are her two boys?
Obviously, they're young children, and they are being looked after by relatives at the moment, and hopefully they're receiving the best care that they can.
Well, if you can help, please call us straight away. The number here is 01811 8055, 01811 8055, or as always, you can call the incident room direct. In this case, 0473 610 610. That's 0473, the code for Ipswich, 610 610.
It's a case in which at least one other child has been sexually assaulted by the same man. We appealed on the case on Incident Desk back in March, but detectives are no further forward, and they need all the help they can get to prevent another child falling victim to the same attacker. During the film you're about to see, please bear in mind that because of the rules which exist to protect performers under the age of 16, the actors taking the roles of the two children are and look older than the roles they're playing. Our reconstruction begins in Brixton, in South London. Wayne Taylor lived with his mother a couple of miles from here in Kennington, but his father lived in Brixton, and Wayne often came here to see him and spend time with friends.
Come anyway, come.
Wayne looked much older than his 11 years and liked to seem cool and streetwise. He would sometimes stay out quite late at night.
I'll go just make a call. Yeah, I'll go ring this girl.
He usually rang home to let the family know where he was.
Yeah, it's me. No, I'm staying at Dad's tonight. He said it's all right. Hey, start, hurry up. Yeah. Because he's waiting, I'll call you later on. All right. Hey, what you doing, man? She can't make it.
Start, you're phoning your mum, innit?
Don't be silly.
Don't lie, so you're phoning her.
Nah, if I ring my mum, I'll tell you.
Young, you know what I mean? Let me give my blind. Don't worry, what she say, you're allowed to stay up.
No, don't be silly. I'm not going to ring my mum.
By contrast, Wayne spent his weekdays in Buckinghamshire at a special weekly boarding school for children with difficulties. There he'd really begun to thrive.
Wayne was very friendly and trusting. He had a very acute sense of humour. He liked to be in the centre of all the activities and really enjoyed the social side of school life. He was the largest boy in school. He protected the younger children, and he was the most popular child. Wayne was doing extremely well. Before he arrived here, he'd had a problem where his classroom attitudes and attainments had deteriorated, but he made very good use of the placement here, and we were proud to have him. He was a leading light at this school.
The day Wayne died was the first day of the half-term holiday, Monday the 19th of February. He was back in London, and at lunchtime he met up with his best friend in Kennington.
Don't be silly. I might sleep at my desk tonight, yeah? Tomorrow. Yeah.
He set off to look for his father in Brixton, but his father wasn't in. At around 4 o'clock that afternoon, someone who looked like Wayne was seen near Southwick House, a council estate in Brixton. Someone else says they saw him on the first-floor landing of the estate at around that time. Could he have been meeting someone there? It is known for certain that around 4 o'clock he was in nearby Atlantic Road. He called into a grocer's shop where he knew his father often went.
You see my dad?
No, I haven't seen him for the evening.
Are you sure you ain't seen him?
No, he ain't been in here yet for the evening.
All right. Can you tell him I'm around? I'm looking for it.
Okay, all right.
Wayne went back to that shop twice more between 6 and 7 o'clock that evening, but his father still wasn't there. It was around 7 o'clock that Wayne was last seen, still in Atlantic Road. Later that night, Wayne's mother reported him missing to the police. Two days later, back at Southwick House, 2 police officers on a routine patrol of the estate looked into a disused community centre.
Dick, what's up? Come on, mate. Wake up. You can't stay there. He's dead, mate. Better get on to the Delta 1.
Wayne had been sexually assaulted and suffocated.
Delta 1 receiving 308.
In the 4 months since then, the Murder Squad incident room in South London has been following up all possible clues, including those provided by Crimewatch viewers. They've talked to more than 1,000 people and taken 250 statements, but the results had been frustrating. With one exception. They turned up a vital new lead when they looked into an attack on a 9-year-old boy in Brixton 8 months before. 20th of June 1989. An after-school game of football near Southwick House, where Wayne Taylor was later found murdered. One 9-year-old boy played on well into the evening. It wasn't until just before midnight that he started walking home along Brixton Hill.
It was so quick, I tried to scream, but his arm got tighter around my neck. He was pushing me, forcing me, to the back of the alley. He was very strong. He pushed me between the cars. I started screaming, then he grabbed me by the neck again. I fell down. He said his name was Derick.
Hello? Who's down there? Hello, what's going on down there?
Daddy!
Oh my God! Are you all right? What's happened? What's happened?
Daddy!
Oh, hang on, I'll come down.
I'll go take a look down.
You're all right now. Oh my God! Are you hurt? Did you see him? Are you all right? Where does it hurt?
There's nobody down there.
Did you see him?
No.
All right. Listen, can you stand? Gently does it. We'll take him upstairs and I'll call an ambulance. Come on, gently does it. That's it. We've got you. Oh.
I've got you,
Okay,
mate.
okay. Right, I'll open the door.
That 9-year-old boy had been seriously sexually assaulted. The results of genetic tests on samples of semen from that attack have now provided vital new evidence in the investigation into the murder of Wayne Taylor.
We took the samples from the clothing of the boy from Brixton Hill and compared them to the samples found on the body of Wayne Taylor. This line here shows the samples taken from the body of Wayne Taylor, and this one here, the boy attacked on Brixton Hill. If we lay the samples side by side, we can see that the two bands are in exactly the same position. This test, and some more detailed tests we did, showed us that one man was definitely responsible for both attacks, and the chances of that not being the situation is 1 in 100 million.
For quite some time after the death of Wayne Taylor, the children here were horrified and devastated by his loss. Particularly those from the South London area felt that they were in danger of being snatched off the street and assaulted and attacked, and they've needed a lot of reassurance.
This is Wayne's dormitory, and this is Wayne's bed over here. It's not been slept in since he's been gone. This is Wayne's teddy. He used to give it to boys who were that sad and upset and wanted a bit of comfort, and they used to just cuddle that.
Well, remember, Wayne was actually much younger than our actor. We're talking here about two children aged 9 and 11. Bill Labors is in charge of this investigation. Wayne was a popular lad, he had a lot of friends, he was very trusting. Would he be the sort of boy to go off with somebody he didn't know?
No, he wasn't that sort of boy, but he was looking for his dad, and if somebody approached him and said they knew where his dad was, it's possible he might have gone off with them.
So what happened after 7 o'clock that night is crucial?
Yeah, that's crucial. We know the boy was last seen at 7, a good witness saw him at 7. By 11 he's dead. It's important that we see anybody who saw Wayne after 7 o'clock.
You found a receipt for a trapper hat beside Wayne's body?
Yes, this is the receipt from the Combined Services Supply and in Atlantic Road. It relates to one of these hats, a trapper hat. We know Wayne Taylor had a trapper hat that was stolen by 2 boys sometime previously, and it's possible that someone purchased him a hat to befriend him.
So that could be a vital clue.
Yes, it could.
What appeals are there now as a result of the link you've made with the attack on the little boy a year ago?
Well, the boy a year ago was playing football in the vicinity of Southwick House, so anybody who can remember in June of last year, a 9-year-old boy walking up Brixton Hill, possibly being followed by a man. And also I want to trace the 2 people who went to his assistance after the attack.
And most important of all, we have a description of him now.
Yes, we have. He's a black man. He's about 5'4", in his early 20s. He did say his name was Derick during the attack. He was wearing a T-shirt with a woodpecker on it.
You're obviously very worried about this case.
Yes, I am. These attacks both took place within the space of 8 months. This man's got to be caught. I have the evidence. I need his identity.
Right. There is, remember, a concern for the safety of other children here. Please do ring. There are BBC researchers manning the phones if you prefer not to speak to a police officer. And the number to ring here is 081 811 8055. The direct line to the Lambeth incident room is this, 071 230 5815. That's 071 230 5815. He was found dead at his home in Plumstead in southeast London on Wednesday the 7th of November. Our reconstruction begins at his house 3 days before that, on Sunday, November the 4th. Ron Harrison had just celebrated his 52nd birthday. The deputy headmaster at Wallington remembers Ron with affection.
He worked extremely hard for the school. It was his whole life. He lived and breathed Wallington boys. And I think he worked too hard, and finally it ruined his health, and he was forced to seek early retirement in March 1990. It was evident that he'd done an extremely good job since his arrival at the school, and was very well respected by boys and staff and parents alike. He was a very popular headmaster and a charismatic figure, able to hold the attention of boys and parents and staff. I think his one regret at being a headmaster was that he would have to give up classroom teaching, because right until the end, this remained his first real love. It was no coincidence that the church he attended was St Paul's at Deptford, where he was able to help the underprivileged youngsters.
And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem,
coming down from God out of heaven.
He was a deeply religious man, and it wasn't all dogma and theory with him. He practiced what he preached.
And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle
In
of
fact,
God is
Ron Harrison had read the lesson that Sunday morning.
Hello? Rosie? Oh, you know, okay. How are you?
In the evening, the school secretary who'd worked with him rang as she did every day to see how he was.
No, I don't think so. I think I'll just watch a little TV and then have an early night.
But half an hour later, a taxi was called to pick up Ron and 2 teenage boys.
Well, I picked him up about 20 to 7, quarter to 7 on that night. The 2 boys were about 17, 18 years of age. Cockney accents. A little bit leery, a little bit full of themselves.
Oh, God, where is he? What a nonce.
Come on, will you?
Ron Harrison came out afterwards. He was very drunk.
Barclays in Woolwich. I want you to wait for me and bring me back.
All right.
Left here.
I took him to Barclays Bank. He kept giving me directions all the way there, which really got up my nose a bit.
Straight on through the lights.
And I think I know the way after about 10 years of cabin.
Well, what's he been on?
He's been on tablets, and drinking and all.
State of that silly bastard.
I did feel that the 2 boys had seen Ron Harrison before. This wasn't the first time that they'd seen him. They was just too cocky around him. You know, they wasn't shy of him or anything. They was just as though they was like not friends, but they knew each other.
It wouldn't give me any money.
Paid me £5. Fare was £4. He gave me a £1 tip. It's very unusual.
The driver dropped all 3 passengers back at Ron's house.
Dinner this way. Yes,
When a
think
friend
so. What
called
about,
45 minutes later,
Friday?
Ron sounded sober.
Good.
This seems to have been the last time any of his
great,
friends spoke to him. It was about 11:30 when the next-door neighbour remembers his baby woke up.
As I was going up the stairs and got to the landing at the top, I noticed there was a bit of noise coming from next door. There were sort of bumping noises that more or less sounded like heavy footfalls.
On the other side, Albert Britton went into the garden to smoke a last pipe before bed.
I saw the light was on, and then a shadow crossed the window. That looked like Ron. And a few seconds afterwards, another shadow crossed behind it. So I don't know who anybody else could be there.
Whatever had happened that Monday night, the following morning, someone was seen in the house wearing a rugby shirt. And Ron Harrison didn't own a rugby shirt. That Tuesday afternoon, a builder arrived. Ron had asked him to do some decorating. The shutters were now drawn. No one answered the door. Yet at about 5 o'clock, the shutters were open again, and somebody was watching television in the dark. Was it Ron or someone else?
Mr. Harrison? Mr. Harrison?
On Wednesday morning, Margaret Parker arrived to clean the house. Ron had been strangled, his ribs had been broken, and he'd been tortured. Police believe he'd been murdered here in the front bedroom and then carried through to his own bedroom at the back of the house. The words Ron had read in St. Paul's Church the previous Sunday now seem sadly prophetic.
And there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away.
Well, Mr. Allen, do you know exactly when Ron was murdered?
I believe he was murdered on the Monday night. That's the Guy Fawkes night. We know that he was tortured before he died. There were wounds, cut wounds inflicted on his legs and his face, and his ribs were broken. And I believe that the two shapes Mr. Britton saw were in fact his killers taking his body into his bedroom.
Now, it seems quite possible that at least one person was still in the house the day after that, and the two teenage boys, being the last people known to have kept his company, are presumably the prime suspects.
Yes, they are, and I'm very, very anxious to speak to them, obviously. I can tell you that Mr. Harrison was in fact gay, and we know from what the taxi driver has told us that it was obvious he knew these two boys. Now, we don't know if he was having a relationship with them, but I need to see them so that I can clarify this matter with them. And I'd urge them, or any members of the gay community in particular who know him, or know these two boys, to come and speak to me and my team in the absolute strictest confidence, and it will be in confidence.
What descriptions do you have of the two boys? The taxi driver's given you descriptions of one in particular that you've been able to make a video fit.
Yes, the descriptions are very similar, actually. They're both lads are aged about 17 or 18, between 5'7" and 5'9" tall, both boyish looking with fresh complexions. And we can see the video fit up there now. And I'd say that, bear in mind, this was constructed by the cab driver who only saw the boy in his rear view mirror. So we can say that the hair is absolutely accurate, but perhaps the rest of the face leaves a little bit to be desired.
Now, certain items were missing from the house too.
Yes, they were. Ron's Barclay card in particular in his name was taken, together with some cash. But the most important thing, where I feel your viewers can in fact help us, is concerning other items, namely two television sets. One was a 14-inch Philip television set. As you can see, the serial numbers are up on the screen now. And the first one is PM008943-154004. And the other one was a 14-inch Decca, serial number 2537874. I'd urge anybody that's come into possession of one of these in slightly dubious circumstances since the 5th of November last year to just get up now and look on the back and see what the serial numbers are. And if they match these, please telephone us now. I can tell those people that if they have dishonestly handled these televisions, they will be granted immunity from any prosecution, provided they can help us.
Well, Mr. Allen, thank you very much indeed. There are, in fact, a number of people here tonight to answer calls on this particular case. Nick.
There's sometimes an understandable reluctance on the part of members of the gay community to identify themselves to the police. But if you want, when you call into Crimewatch this evening, you can ask to speak to a member of Gallup, that's the Gay London Policing Group. Jeremy Clark, how can you help tonight?
Well, a part of our role is to act as an intermediary between the police and the lesbian and gay community. And in this case, if callers have information but are reluctant to speak directly to the police, then they can speak to us, and we can guarantee that their identity will be protected if that's what they wish.
Really guarantee? What happens if the police say, look, we think this call is crucial, we really want you to give the name and address of this person?
Well, we work with the police on this because our aim is the same, which is to solve this particular crime. And the police respect that our role is to guarantee confidentiality so that we get as much information through as possible.
OK, well, if you can shed any light on who killed Ron Harrison, you can ask to speak to Jeremy or one of his colleagues from Gallup, or indeed a BBC researcher. Here's the number, 081 811 8181. Or you can ring the Metropolitan Police direct. The number there is 071 230 2301. That's 071 230 2301. 3 calculating killers when all you have to go on is some fairly vague descriptions. Well, the answer is see if something clicks with someone watching Crimewatch. What we do know is the men may well come from South London. They're probably in their late 30s, and they seem to have access to a well-kept white Orion car. Their victim was Nimal Samarasinha, often known as Sam, who lived in Wallington in Surrey with his daughter Michelle and his wife Florence.
Sam worked for a helicopter company in Surrey as a licensed avionics engineer, maintaining and repairing airborne electronics. He frequently worked evenings and Saturdays and Sundays.
What are you watching?
There's something on the TV.
Come on.
Dad.
Come on, you learn something. Come
on.
Sam enjoyed as much time as possible with Michelle, his only child. He'd spent several years working abroad, and now he was home for good. She was the centre of his life.
See, it's a bit tricky, isn't it? He used to come at weekends with his daughter Michelle. You could always tell where they were and everything like that. There was always laughter wherever they went. Anybody could talk to him. If anybody had a problem, they could always talk to Sam.
The night of Wednesday, January the 22nd, midnight.
Hey, what's going on? I just saw this bloke run off over there. Are you all right? I saw your door open.
Yeah, of course we're all right. I'm just trying to get some sleep, that's all.
Well, I'm just a neighbour trying to help you out. All right.
Okay.
Cheers.
It's all right. Yes. Police. I don't know. It might not be important, but something rather strange has just happened.
The police could find no sign of forced entry and failed to trace the helpful neighbour. Was it you? Then, next day...
I was taking my dog his usual morning walk, which was around about 7:15. And as I was going along the main road, I was aware of this white car that was coming towards me. And then it stopped across the junction and then turned into Carew Road. I went across the road as I normally do, and then it backed across the main road and up Bandon Rise, and the whole thing just seemed very, very peculiar to me. I became aware that the driver was Asian, and as was the passenger, and then it just halted.
A few days later, Nimal, worried by the strange incident on his doorstep, installed an alarm system and a dummy security camera. The last day of Nimal Samarasinha's life, 6:45 a.m. on Thursday, the 30th of January.
As I crossed the road, I noticed a white Orion. It's in exceptionally good condition, very clean. The windows on it were not frosted. As I looked inside the car, I see a chubby Asian guy, probably 40, 45 years of age, with a load of hair pushed back off his face, very bushy, and he had a big, sort of puffed up beige jacket he was wearing.
Do you know who this was? He had a perfect view of the front and garage entrances to Nimal's house.
I was scraping the ice off of my car and just happened to look across the road, and there was a white Ford Orion there, and a man sitting in it with the dried his window down. He looked about 35, thin face, thin nose, and a flat cap, just looking across towards the main road. I felt that there was somebody looking at me, and I just happened to look round, and he was looking across at me, and started the engine of the car up, drove to the end of the turn-in and turned right till he was out of view.
Where's your shampoo, Michelle?
Up there, yours, Dad.
I was walking down towards the mains road and I heard a loud noise which sounded like metal against metal. And I looked across and I saw a man standing on the inside of the gate looking up towards the garages.
Help! Please, someone help! Come on, let's go!
Nimal Samarasinha was killed by a single powerful knife blow to his heart.
It had the hallmarks of a paid assassination. There's a reward, a very big reward indeed. If you can help to prove who did it, if you've heard any gossip, if you can help identify or eliminate any of the people in the White Orion, do please call right away, 081 811 8181. Or perhaps you know who this is. He was seen in an alley behind the shops in Stafford Road, just round the corner from Nimal's house. It was then about 8:45 a.m. The date again, Thursday, the 30th of January. The number again, 081 811 8181. Or you can call Wallington Police Station in Surrey on 081 669 2214. That's 081 669 2214. Generous, gregarious, and though no one knew where it had come from, he had plenty of money. He relished popularity. He had lots of friends and lots of girlfriends. But clearly not everyone was so impressed by Mr. Shippey. Someone decided to kill him. And maybe in the next 10 minutes after this reconstruction, we'll discover who they are and why they did it. Doves is in South Croydon, Surrey. And after working there for almost a quarter of a century, John Shippey had risen from a junior in the accounts department to become the finance director. Since his death, the business has discovered that about £750,000 has been siphoned from their subsidiary finance company over a period of at least 8 years.
I'm going to the cricketers. Then I'm going to get some agreements signed.
OK, have a nice weekend.
You too, darling.
Bye.
I'd known John for nearly 8 years, ever since I'd joined the company. He was a big man. He had lots of presence. You always knew when he was in a room. If you had a problem and you asked him to solve your problem, he'd always try to do it. His local was the cricketers, and he had used the pub for many, many years, for both business and for pleasure.
Here comes the boy. Was you in trouble? Was you all right? All right. Hello, John.
John was a very outgoing man.
Hello, lad.
That's in the pub in the cricketers.
All right, John. Now then, what's this about Friday? Everybody all right for it? Yeah, that's right.
John lived his life in thousands of little compartments, and you didn't really cross over from one to the other unless he really allowed you to.
All right, lads, who's up for a snack?
He was a completely larger-than-life character. A very kind, generous man, and just good fun to be with. I just cannot think of any reason at all why anyone would want to do any harm to John at all.
The night of Saturday, the 14th of December, 1991. John and one of his girlfriends, Carol, had dinner with Joe Kavanagh and his wife at a local restaurant.
You sure you don't want to drink, John?
No. I'm knocking it on the head until after Christmas.
Have you told them about the new boat?
No.
Got it?
Yeah.
Where'd you get the white one?
Yeah, 40-footer. You ready for Spain in May?
Probably need to get one, Is everything all right?
Great. Yeah, as usual. Osmond, since it's Christmas, why don't you take a photograph? Give me the camera.
Here you are.
Here you go. You down at Paris tomorrow?
No, I've got an appointment.
Oh, see you Monday or Wednesday.
Yeah, sure. Cheers. Bye-bye, darling.
The four of them left the restaurant at about 1 o'clock, and John drove Carol to the house he'd helped her buy in Ightham in Kent. Although he owned a number of homes, he spent much of his time here and would normally stay with Carol at the weekend. But theirs was a volatile relationship, and that night they had a sudden row. John left the house between 2 and 3 in the morning in his blue Ford Sierra Sapphire. It wasn't until 3 days later that Carol realized something might be wrong.
Hello?
Hi, Carol. It's Charles.
Oh, hello, Joe. How are you?
All right, thanks. You haven't seen John at all, have you? He hasn't been down the cricketers for a couple of days now.
No, I haven't seen him since Saturday. In fact, I've had Doves on the phone saying he missed an important meeting yesterday. It's not like him at all. I'm beginning to get quite worried.
20 miles west of Ightham, the M25 crosses the M23 near the village of Merstham. Later that night, a witness was approaching the village on his way back from a badminton match.
I was driving along Rockshore Road towards Warwickswold, and I became aware of a car in front who was driving erratically. The driver and the passenger were looking in both directions and became nervous when I came up behind them. The moment I overtook them and went to look in and see exactly who was in the car, they both deliberately turned away, so I really only had a look at the back of their heads.
The small network of roads next to the motorway is usually quiet, leading only to a scattering of private houses or to a nearby gypsy camp. Yet at 10 to 11, another witness saw something there that struck him as peculiar.
As I passed the junction of Rockshore Road and continued down towards Warwickswold, there were 2 cars parked on the near side. The car I came to first was a Ford Cortina, and the car in front of that was a blue Ford Sierra with a man leaning into the back of the passenger compartment. And as I passed them, I picked up the headlights in the mirror of the car, which I thought was odd. If one of the cars had broken down, that both of them had got their headlights on.
In London today, the serious fraud...
Just down the road, a couple was watching Newsnight.
...the price of Maxwell Communication Corporation shares. And the BBC has learned that a secret...
Oh, God, what was that?
I don't know. Sound like I come from the motorway. But you stay here, I'll have a look.
No, I'll come with you.
Having picked my wife up and entered Warwickswold again, there was a blue Sierra which was completely engulfed in flames. And I thought at the time that was the car that I'd just seen previously and passed about 20 minutes earlier.
Fire and rescue.
Yes, what's the address?
In Merstham. As a car fire, Warwickwold, Merstham. We're on our way, sir.
There'd been a spate of abandoned cars in this area, and this witness was compiling a video of them. John Shippey's body was found in the boot of his burnt-out Sierra. He died from stab wounds. These are identical glasses to the ones he was wearing. They're Safilo sporting glasses. They're missing, as is this watch, which is a fairly distinctive Seiko watch. So if you've seen these abandoned somewhere, and John Beavers, the cases, we saw him putting identical cases to these into the back of his blue Sierra Sapphire. The cases are missing too.
Yes, they are. He kept all his personal and business papers in these cases, and he wouldn't go anywhere without them. The larger one is a Samsonite, hard grey plastic. The other one is a maroon leather case, both with combination locks. I would very much like to know where those cases are.
Now let's just fix dates in people's minds. This is 10 days before Christmas. It was a bitterly cold night that Sunday night.
Certainly. Sunday morning there would have been a very heavy frost on the car.
Now, there was this 3-4 days between his last sighting and the discovery of the car. So somewhere that blue Ford Sierra Sapphire went during that period. It must have been garaged somewhere, left out on the streets.
It's critical to our investigation. We must know where that car was. It was certainly somewhere for those 3 days.
H613 CWS, as you can see. Where do you think it probably was? What sort of area?
I would say it was in eastern Surrey, north-west Kent, maybe south London, Croydon, those sort of areas. It may have been outside a lockup. Someone may have seen it obstructing their driveway. We really must find out where that car was for those 3 days.
Now, there was an implication, as we saw in the reconstruction, that he had an appointment on the Sunday.
Yes, despite all the people we've seen, and we've seen numerous members of his close associates and business acquaintances, nobody has mentioned having that appointment with him on that Sunday, and I would very much like to hear from anybody who's made arrangements to meet John on that Sunday, the 15th of December.
We heard how he sort of compartmentalised his life. I mean, do you think you've now spoken to everybody who knew him?
No, he was a very complex character indeed, and in fact the way he compartmentalised his life has made my inquiry even more difficult. There's possibly parts of his life now that we haven't actually entered into, and if anybody else who's listening to this programme who knew John Shippey, was a girlfriend of John Shippey, had business dealings with John Shippey, who we haven't spoken to, please contact us.
Just, it's a bit of a long shot this, but 3 canisters like this, camping canisters of gas, butane gas, were what detonated that explosion in the car. Now, each of them has serial numbers on the bottom, and the 3 in the back of the car, the serial number's 00491, and if you sold those to somebody before Sunday the 15th of December, remember anything about them, 00491, do please give us a call. Mr. Beavis and his colleagues are waiting for anybody who's got any information. Here's the number, 081 811 8181. Remember, if you prefer, you can speak to a BBC researcher. Or you can call Reigate Police Station direct. That's on 0737 765 040. That's 0737 765 040. Over Britain. On Wimbledon Common in southwest London, a young mother, Rachel Nickell, was waylaid and repeatedly stabbed. Her scratched and bruised 2-year-old son was found clinging to her body. It appears to be a random killing, which of course makes it extremely hard to solve. So tonight, detectives are putting all their cards on the table, and they're appealing for the whole nation's help to name the killer. The appeal is in 2 parts. First, for crucial witnesses, some of whom have yet to be traced. Second, an appeal to the killer's mother or friends or family. In the next few minutes, Superintendent John Bassett is going to reveal everything that's known about the murderer, including a great deal that's never been revealed before. Someone watching must be able to piece the clues together. This is an area known as the Mound. Behind it is the main A3, and south of the Mound is where Rachel walked that morning with her son and the dog romping off ahead of her. Just in front of her is a path that leads to a bridleway. This is her path seen from the air, and this, marked with an X, is where she met her killer. First, the hunt for the remaining witnesses, most of whom have come forward, people on the common.
Yes.
You still think there are others?
Oh, yes. I think there are a number of witnesses who've yet to come forward.
In fact, as late as Friday, a very important witness was seen by us, so there are more to come forward.
And not just on the common, but I know in the cemetery to the west of it, and also north of the A3 towards Putney and Roehampton.
Yes, that's right. There was a witness seen north of the A3, running towards the Roehampton estate. He was a man dressed just in blue boxer shorts that morning and had a bundle of clothing under his arm. We don't think he's involved, but we'd like to eliminate him from the inquiry.
Okay, so if that was you, that may not be a very flattering picture of you, but please do call us straight away. Okay, now to identify the killer. Remember the date, Wednesday the 15th of July. This is what we know so far. A mother and her 2 teenage sons saw a man here by the curling pond. Now that was about 10:15. It's about 15 minutes before Rachel was murdered. It's 5 minutes walk from here to the murder scene. The murder scene again marked with a cross. The man was in his 20s or 30s. He was tall, more than 5 feet 10, and had short brown hair. He had a white shirt with buttons and dark trousers, possibly blue, and was carrying a small dark bag. Curiously, his belt was over his shirt rather than round his trousers. Or perhaps it was a dog lead. He seemed to bend forward slightly as he walked. Was he trying to hide his face? The family who saw him were suspicious because they had the impression he was following a woman. Now, that woman was the one who was traced on Friday. She thought the man was probably on his way to work, but a few minutes later, about 10:20, he reappeared back by the pond. No one saw him go down south on the open ground towards the mound, but if he took this path, it would lead him through the trees towards Rachel Nickell. Now, if that was you and you didn't head down here and didn't encounter Rachel, you're nonetheless a key witness. Now is the time to call 081 811 8181. Then perhaps 3 minutes after the murder, a man was seen here. He too looked suspicious because he turned his face from the witness as though he didn't want to be seen, and he seemed to crouch down as though he was trying to wash himself. Indeed, there is a small stream here. Rachel's killer would certainly have her blood on him. This man too was in his late 20s or early 30s. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, and he too had short brown hair. He wore a light top and loose-fitting jeans or trousers. Again, he was carrying a dark bag. Again, if it was you and you had nothing to do with the murder, call us now, 081 811 8181. Now, from this point, let's add some informed conjecture. A consultant clinical psychologist has been handed evidence of Rachel's murder, and he's been comparing its hallmarks with other psychopathic killings. He's drawing up a likely profile of the killer, and though it won't be completed until next week, his official guidance is already as follows. The killer is under the age of 30. He lives locally. He still lives at home with his mum or parents, or alone in a hostel or a bedsit. He's untidy and disorganized. It's possible he has a bike, but he probably doesn't drive a car. He's a low achiever, so he's never done well at exams. He's not very good at conversation. He has few friends and has solitary hobbies. He may have an interest in martial arts. He likes pornography, including some of the violent sort. He doesn't have a steady girlfriend. If he's had previous girlfriends, they'll have found him unsatisfying, sexually inexperienced, and wanting to act out domineering gameplay. He's pestered women before. Indeed, he may have been caught for minor sex offences. He may well have an unskilled job, though if he does, remember, he certainly had that Wednesday morning off back in mid-July. His family will know that something's wrong with him, but they'll obviously find it hard to admit, even to themselves. They'll have noticed his mood changed after mid-July. He was upset or excitable for a few days after that. Above all, he could cause a tragedy and suffering like this again. Now, remember, some of these guidelines could be wrong, but if you can put several clues together and they fit someone you know, we all know the importance of this. Please do call us. John Bassett, it's going to be so difficult for a family, whatever their suspicions, to ring. I mean, to imagine that someone close to them, or a girlfriend, someone that close to them at some stage could have done this.
Yes, it's going to be very, very difficult. But I would appeal to the females of the Wimbledon area to come forward and identify this man. He is a local man, and I believe a mother, sister, or girlfriend knows the identity of this man. Women have an instinct for men that are odd like this. This man is dangerous and he's ill and he needs attention.
I know most unusually in this case for witness, just for this programme, you have sought from the Crown Prosecution Service and achieved a guarantee of immunity from anybody who's involved in minor offences.
Yes, that's right.
What about confidentiality, promising that families won't be involved?
Well, I can promise any family that rings me that their identity will never be revealed, and they can have complete confidence in myself and my team.
Can I repeat? I mean, friends and family, of course, will always have a sense of disbelief, but it's easy to eliminate people who are innocent. It's a matter of life and death to find a man who's guilty. So if you've even the slightest hunch, please call. Could I add, the killer himself, according to these psychologists, may be deeply troubled by what he's done. He may not be able to understand it or explain it, but he can put himself in a position where people can help him and make sure he's not the cause of further tragedy. All it takes is a phone call. If you have any information, please call. You can ask to speak to a woman if you prefer, and there are BBC researchers here too. Or you can call the incident room in Wimbledon. That's on 081 947 1212. Please persevere if you find any of these numbers busy. Wimbledon 1 again, 081 947 1212. Murder. For whoever killed a local government official 4 months ago almost blew up a block of flats and all its residents. The dead man was Bulic Forsythe. Detectives hope tonight to find the motive and the culprit.
Is anyone in there?
Well, I don't know. Mr. Forsythe lives there. If he's in or not, I don't know.
Oh, there's someone in there. Get a move on. Get in here, Sam! Find the meat! Lock it up! We found a body in here, Sam! There's a body in here, go! One man found in back bedroom, apparently dead.
The fire had been started deliberately. The dead man was 42-year-old Bulic Forsythe, and he'd been murdered, beaten repeatedly and savagely around the head.
Morning.
Morning.
Oh, Edna. I've just walked through the car park. It's a complete mess. There's cars blocking in social work.
Bulic worked for Lambeth Social Services at our headquarters in Clapham for over 4 years. Although he was considered by some people to be rather overzealous, in fact his bark was much worse than his bite.
This morning, I came through the yard. There were cars wrongly parked, blocking other people in. Social services cars can't get out in an emergency.
Amongst his responsibilities were premises management of some 10 social services buildings around the borough. He was a very conscientious and efficient office manager. And in fact, senior management in social services often asked him to write important policy documents on health and safety procedures. I would say that he had a very genuine concern for the welfare of staff.
Hello? Yes, yes. Bulic Forsythe speaking.
We generally heard very little from him about his private life. Really, he kept very much to himself on those matters.
Bulic moved to Foster Court in South London 4 years ago. In 1990, he'd married an American, but he loved his job too much to emigrate. So his wife, now pregnant, was planning to join him in Britain.
Oh, I'm fine, thank you, Mrs. Hayles.
Their baby was due in May.
I'm so overjoyed at the moment to think that at 42, I'll be having my first child with you.
He was very excited and said, Dee, I can't believe this. At my age, I'm going to be a father. He said, somebody up there must love me. I said, please, don't you tell anyone until I'm sure. But I guess I should have told him to tell the world, because as soon as I hung up, he called my mom, he called his friends, and I heard he went to the pub, and he told everyone. Bulic was easygoing, loved to party, loved his music, and loved to play pool. And I guess on his job, most people never saw that side of him.
In fact, while Dawn was in America, Bulic, or John as some friends knew him, may have been quite lonely. Few colleagues at work were close to him, but he had several friends from Clapham, some from the gay scene, and several visited his flat. Please call if you knew him. For some months before his death, Bulic had often been seen with two men at an off-licence just across the road from his flat. One man always stood near the doorway, while the other seemed equally keen not to be recorded by the shop's security camera. The owner remembers this man as scruffy in blue, tight-fitting jeans and a casual jacket. He was about 25 years old, 6 feet tall, with blue eyes and unkempt fair hair.
Are you up already, Bulic? It's only 4:45.
Yes. I've just finished working on this report now, and I've been at it for 6 weeks, but it's all done. Really pleased. So I'm going to get an early night.
Bulic was last seen alive leaving the council offices around 5 p.m. on Wednesday, February the 24th.
Every morning I hear the alarm of Mr. Forsythe go off, because my bedroom is above his bedroom. But this morning I didn't hear the alarm. And then when I went out at 9 o'clock, I saw his curtains open. And that was unusual, because mostly his curtains aren't drawn at that time in the morning.
Edna, have you seen Bulic this morning?
Is he expecting you?
Well, not really, but I'm a little bit worried because he's normally here by now.
While his colleagues were trying to contact him, Bulic's flat may have been having visitors. A local resident recalls,
I was going over the paper shop to buy a paper, and I saw 3 men was coming out of Foster Court round the front there. They was carrying some briefcase and some folders in their hands. Why I noticed them? Because they look official. I never saw them here before.
if you were one of those 3 men, the police would dearly like to hear from you. 4 hours later, just before 2 o'clock, the same resident who'd seen visitors at the front noticed something unusual at the back of Bulic's flats.
I saw a white car parked there in the corner with 2 men sitting in it, and they was gazing at me. They're well dressed, and one of them have black hair, the other one have a brownish hair. I live here for 18 years and I never see a car parked there before.
Come on, answer the phone. Mike, I'm getting concerned about Bulic. I'm going to go around to the flat later, see if he's okay.
When she got there at 5 p.m, Bulic's curtains had been closed. Someone had obviously been in the flat that day.
Bulic! Bulic! Are you in there? Open the door, Bulic!
Bulic was probably inside, but almost certainly now dead. Then, later on that night, a resident in Foster Court was disturbed by a commotion.
It was about 1 o'clock in the morning. I remember looking at the clock. I heard running at the back of the flats, quite heavy footsteps.
The gas failed to explode, and Bulic's neighbour woke up an hour later.
Oh my God, there's a fire. Fire brigade. Fire brigade.
Please call. I would like to know why he was murdered. And for my sake, my baby's sake, and his family, we all want to know why.
If you know anything that could suggest a motive for Bulic Forsythe's death, do please ring. And would this man, a friend perhaps called Steve, who's maybe a bicycle courier, call as well? Or were you one of the 2 friends seen with Bulic in the off-licence? Can you help eliminate the 3 men who were leaving Foster Court? We know some documentation is missing from Bulic's flat. It could be personal or it could be connected with his work. Do you know where it is? Or have you been offered Bulic's watch, a silver Rolex Oyster model, R16220A7? Who would be so crazy as to set fire to a building in the dead of night with families asleep in all the other flats? Detective Superintendent Brian Tompkins is waiting for your call, or you can ring another number, the Murder Inquiry Room at Gypsy Hill, 071 326 1212. That's 071 326 1212. Stressing, it's double murder, and the police, working with a clinical psychologist, fear that the man who did it might have killed before and might do it again. Our reconstruction, therefore, is aimed not just at prompting memories, but to warn others who might be vulnerable to the attacker. And if you've the slightest suspicion from what follows, we're asking you to call straight away. Some details of this crime haven't been made public until tonight, but in a moment we'll unveil the profile of the offender. First, the story of the victims. Almost all the people you see are the real witnesses. The day before Guy Fawkes night, and Conrad Ellum dropped in to see his girlfriend before he went to work. Samantha Bisset and her daughter Jazmine lived in Plumstead in South London.
Sam?
I saw the stain on the carpet, and when I looked in the kitchen, everything was messy, and I found this confusing. At first, I thought there was something had been spilled. Then I thought maybe there'd been a burglar in the house. And then when I went into the next room and saw Sam, I realised what had happened.
Oh, she was a loving child. A very caring kind of girl. She wanted very much to go to art college. And after her father died, we decided to go back to Scotland. Maybe the wrong decision for her, because I found out later that she went through a lot of bullying and the wrong accent, the wrong time, you know. So, of course, she wanted to leave school as soon as possible after that.
Samantha had been brought up in Gloucestershire and wanted to go back to England. She became a New Age traveller, then 5 years later decided to have a child.
When she told me that she was going to have this baby, I was delighted. And she thought I wouldn't be, because it was out of wedlock, so to speak. She doesn't want a husband per se. After Jazmine, that girl's life just changed completely. It was just unbelievable. She became just the perfect mother. She wanted the very best for that child.
Right.
Samantha met Conrad when she settled down in Plumstead, and he soon became like a father to Jazmine. But Samantha had ambitious dreams that he felt were unrealistic.
A bigger place is perfect for Jazmine. Hey, JJ, come here. Look, this could be your new school.
Conrad was a good pal, but I don't think he gave her the commitment that she wanted. She wanted to meet new people to broaden her horizons, to make sure that she took every opportunity she could to help this child.
What's wrong, sweetheart?
I can't sleep.
I'll come in a minute. Just let me finish this first. I've tried to be friendly, but I don't seem to have much in common with the housewives and mums we've met around here. I would really like to get to know people who are on a similar sort of wavelength. So please, be brave and leave a message.
Samantha placed ads in the local paper, hoping to meet friends. She was evidently lonely.
Thanks. I'm from Scotland originally. My mum still lives there. I'm a single mother. JJ's father lives on the south coast. Did I mention I was a vegetarian?
Yeah, you've mentioned it in the ads. Sam and I hit it off from the start and became very good friends. We've got a lot of things in common, like we'll have a bit of laugh in 2 weeks' time. Get on really fine.
After meeting Phil and other people in the local district, Samantha put ads in a newspaper that's London-wide. It's not clear what she expected, but she was shocked at some of the replies.
How to describe myself? I'm 27. I'm tall, blonde. I suppose you could call me upmarket. Hello? Mum, no, yeah, it's all right. I just had a funny call.
Sometimes she was feeling
Yeah,
great.
she's in bed.
Everything was going really well. But most times she was a bit down. And I used to think, well, she's putting every effort into this child. And I used to worry about her own life, just the drag of, You know, taking Jazmine to play school, taking her to swimming. The whole week was just around Jazmine.
The week before the murders, John Clark, a local cab driver, remembers an event while dropping Sam and Jazmine home.
That's next ride.
Okay.
Oh, God.
What's the matter?
It's that van. I just hope it's not who I think it is.
She seemed genuinely alarmed at this van, but I had a look around. There didn't seem to be anyone there.
Okay.
So I made sure she was okay, and off she went.
Throughout that week, neighbours saw the yellow van in Heathfield Terrace. If it was yours, please call. And who were the two men with it?
I always walk past Sam's to take my dog out. I see these two guys there with a little dog a couple of times. I think they're living there now. I just assumed they were friends of Sam's.
The day Samantha died was Wednesday, November the 3rd. Conrad left at lunchtime.
See you later, yeah?
Yeah, I won't be over tonight.
Yeah, OK. Oh, don't forget we've got to go to JJ school
The
tomorrow.
last time I saw Sam, we talked mostly about the holiday we were going to go on. We were really looking forward to it. It would have been Jazmine's first holiday. Sam's mother had lent us the money to go to the Gambia, and we were very excited about going somewhere so exotic.
At 3:30, as usual, Samantha picked up her daughter from the nursery.
Jazmine, Mummy's here. It's time to go.
The cab driver is the last person known to have seen them alive. He dropped them home at 20 to 4. We don't know what they did that evening, but Jazmine was clearly put to bed as usual. At 10:15 that night, a woman was driving past Samantha's flat.
I was coming back from my friend's house. I was driving up the hill, and as I was coming up to the top, some man just walked straight out in front of my car. I noticed it was odd because he didn't acknowledge me. When I got to the top, I looked left, and I couldn't see him, so I presumed that he had gone in towards the flat, because there couldn't have been anywhere else he could have gone.
15 minutes later, a neighbour was out walking his dog.
Yeah, I am. Come round some.
Samantha probably died from a single knife wound. After death, her body was then moved and systematically cut. There was no evidence of robbery or rape. Jazmine had been suffocated in her bed. Terribly sad case, and in a way even more tragic, because Mike Banks' Jazmine, who was 4½, was sexually abused. Now, that's not been made public until tonight. Why are you so anxious that we should publish that now?
Well, I'm very afraid that this man will murder again, and I think I'm appealing to people that might have an inkling they might know the person that could be responsible for these murders. I'm looking for a friend, a relative, perhaps even a wife or a girlfriend. And once they realise what has happened to this poor young child, a defenceless young child of 4 years of age, then I'm hoping they'll contact us and help us with this major inquiry.
Well, to give you some idea, we're also able to tell you for the first time tonight something of the background, the profile of this man. He's thought to be over 25. He's likely to have used contact ads, and maybe you've met him through one. He would have been unlikely to sustain stable relationships, and indeed probably has been violent to women and may have hurt prostitutes. A possible history of animal mutilation as well, but on the surface he'll probably appear quite normal. He's likely to have a normal job. He is, though, as the superintendent says, likely to reoffend. If he had gone to prostitutes, if he had attacked some sort of woman before, I mean, what sort of attack? What would it be that she'd recognise in his behaviour?
Well, I think rather than having sex possibly with a prostitute, or perhaps even to somebody he's met through a contact magazine, he'd most likely want to hurt them as opposed to having sex
Paul Britton's a clinical psychologist. How much, you studied this man in some detail, as much as you can, how much do you think you know him?
I think we know quite well what was going through his mind at the time of the offence, but I would like him to tell me how he got started on the pathway that led him eventually to harm Samantha. I would also like him to tell me why it was necessary for him to harm the child as well.
When you say you'd like him to tell you, I mean, he's not very likely to ring out and say, "Go speak to Paul Britton, please," and here are his answers. Or is he, do you think?
I think that there is a possibility that he might want to do that.
Is there anything else that you can tell us about him? I mean, will he share his interest with other people, do you think? Will anyone else sort of recognise, hey, you know, we had photographs of this, or, you know, is there anything else that he...
There is a possibility that this man will use a very specialist form of pornography, that focusing on the mutilation of women. And I think anyone living with him or in close proximity to him might be aware of this, and that would be important.
Superintendent, there are a lot of people that you want to eliminate, and I must stress, it is to eliminate. These aren't people you suspect. The yellow van, first of all, was pretty clear. Yes. You've got to try and eliminate whoever was there in that. There was also a man who's been seen with her, with Samantha, and you've got some pictures of him.
Yes, that's correct. There's an art impression. I don't know if it's showing up on the screen. The first one is a man. He's got a ponytail. You can't see it there, but he's also got this earring in his left ear, which looks like a cross. Now, this is believed to possibly have been a man who was going with Samantha during the summer, and in fact, he's very similar to the description of one of the men seen in the yellow van. Now, whether it's one and the same person, we don't know.
Let's look at the other picture now.
If
that's you, you're not under suspicion, but please call us straight away. We really do need to contact you. And also, if you were outside the flat in Plumstead, it's Heathfield Terrace, Wednesday, November the 23rd. If there's any reason you should recall that and you were wearing a white mac, a long white mac with a collar up right down to your shoes almost, you were seen there probably waiting for somebody, please call, again, you're not under suspicion. If you can help in any way, call Mike Banks or any of his colleagues, or you can ask for a BBC researcher here, direct in the studio, 0500 600 600. Incidentally, if you ask to speak to Paul Britton, please don't waste our time. It's far too serious for practical jokes or pranks, and we've got ways of eliminating people who are trying that anyway. Or you can call the Instant Room in Thamesmead. That's 081 312 1200. That's 081 312 1200.
Well, our first case tonight has been baffling police for the past 3 months, simply because all their investigations have failed to reveal any possible motive. It's the murder of 47-year-old Derick Kiley at his flat in South London. By all accounts, he was a man with many friends and no enemies that anyone's been able to discover. Derick's girlfriend died last year, and our reconstruction begins at Hither Green Cemetery in southeast London. Derick was an immensely private person. He'd had a girlfriend for 2 years, but few of his friends knew about her until she died suddenly of a heart attack last November, aged only 37. His brother remembers Derick was devastated.
Derick was really, really broke up. I've never seen him like this. He couldn't speak, he didn't seem to know what day it was. He was definitely in shock. To see him upset like that, falling apart, you know, he really was a bad scene for me and for Derick, I think. We lost touch over the years, and we was just getting back together again, which would have been terrific. He was a good guy, Dale. I mean, he'd do things like, he'd stop the traffic to let an old lady across the road. He was a real old softy, really, although he didn't give that in his appearance.
Derick, or Del as he was known to his friends and family, had spent most of his life in South London. He'd lived in his flat in Harpenden Road in West Norwood for more than 10 years.
Yeah, tell me about it. Look, don't worry yourself. Yeah, well, look, we'll sort something out. Well, leave it to me. Hang on, mate, look, I've got to go. There's someone at the door. I'll bill you later, yeah? Ta-da.
Derick's friends knew they were always welcome to drop in for a chat.
Hello, Juice.
Hi, Ben.
Come in, you.
He used to actually call his flat the Haven. It was where people could go with their problems. I've known Del for about 4 years. He was a very good friend to me. He was a very good friend to everybody. But although he did have a lot of friends, I felt that in the last 6 months he did get quite lonely, and he seemed quite desperate for people to be around him. In actual fact, he seemed quite frightened of being on his own.
While people confided in him, Derick kept his own problems very much to himself. But there's no doubt that something had been worrying him.
Before you threw that out.
Now I stuck it back together again. Painted the flowers on myself. It's all right, isn't it?
He was always mending things, always fixing things. I used to call him Mr. Fix-It.
You want a rollie?
No, thanks.
He used to spend most of his time actually in his flat. He used to call it his control centre because where he used to sit he had everything to hand. His remote control, his answering machine and his telephone.
Hello? Yeah, all right, mate. What's the mileage?
Derick's main love was cars, and he made a business of doing up and selling second-hand vehicles.
Yeah, we can do something, yeah. Consider it done.
He was a familiar sight in the street, working on various old cars outside his house.
Hi, Del.
Hello, girl, how are you?
All right, thanks. How are you?
Not too bad. Hey, there's something I've got to say to you. That little cat of yours.
He was such a good neighbour to us. We used to say that the best things about West Norwood were the fishmonger and Del.
It cost me a fortune in cat food as well.
I had a smash in my car and Del just completely took over. He just did everything.
Oh, it's really good since you fixed it.
Yeah, well, you should get onto the garage, you know. They ripped you off something rotten.
Yeah, I know. I keep meaning to ring them.
Yeah, well, do it and let me know what they say.
He was a real mixture. I mean, he came across as really macho, and yet you'd go round there and he'd be doing watercolours of cottages and sailing ships, which came as a real surprise. You know, it was quite a contrast to his image. I mean, I think he thought he was quite hard, but I certainly never saw him being aggressive, and he was a real honey to us.
It's just after New Year, Sunday the 2nd of January. A neighbour remembers seeing a man coming from the direction of Derick's house that night and getting into a black 7 Series BMW. The witness describes the man as of Asian appearance with a ponytail and in his mid-20s. The next afternoon, around 3:30, a local man remembers seeing Derick in the street.
I was walking up Oldswater Road towards Harpenden Road when I saw him talking to a man in a light blue Sierra. The man he was talking to had slick back hair and a ponytail. He was about in his mid-30s and had Mediterranean type skin. I also remember that the car tax was out of date.
Later that same evening, Derick was at a pie stall in Crystal Palace Parade, a few miles from where he lived.
Tea and coffee? Yeah, please, Ron. Well, Del used to come up at night to see me on odd occasions, have a chat. All right, Del.
Not really.
But on this occasion he come up, he looked down and out and didn't seem that he was in his right mind. Something was worrying him. He said to me, I'll see you later, and then off he went. And that was the last time I see him.
That was the last time anyone is known to have seen Derick alive. Half an hour later, back in Harpenden Road, it's shortly after midnight. This woman lives a few doors away from Derick's flat.
I heard what I thought was a woman scream. I went to the window and looked out, but I couldn't see anything. So I decided, as it was a woman that I thought had screamed, I'd go outside and check it out. I went out, had a good look round. I couldn't see anything, so I decided I'd better go back home.
The shouting seemed to have come from the general direction of Derick's flat.
There's nobody available to speak to at the moment. If you'll leave your name and any message, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Del. I'm a bit worried about where you are. Give me a ring when you get back. Thanks, bye.
Over the next 3 days, Derick's friends became increasingly worried as he failed to return their calls. It was Thursday, January the 6th, when Derick's body was discovered in the flat. He died from multiple stab wounds.
I do honestly miss him so much. We had so much going then between us. We were very, very close, and I think he was going to come back into the family, and we could have been a family again. It would have been tremendous to have had Del back. All I can say is I do really miss him very much.
Well, Mr. Younger, as I said at the beginning, you've been really struggling to find a motive here.
That's right. We don't know why anyone would want to kill Derick, Kiley, but I'm sure somebody does know, and that would greatly assist us in finding out who did kill Derick.
There were a few things stolen from his flat.
Yes, there was a black bag containing a large amount of cash and a wristwatch, quite an antique-type wristwatch, about 1935s. It's slightly more oblong than the one being shown, but in point of fact it was very valuable.
So this watch could be really vital. It's interesting that we actually couldn't find one identical, but it's an oval version of this.
Yes.
There's no manufacturer's mark on it.
No, that's right. But if anyone's been offered that, certainly since the 6th of January, we'd certainly like to hear from them.
It could be very helpful. But you don't actually believe that robbery was the primary motive for Derick's murder?
No, Derick was a very cautious man, and he wouldn't let anyone into his flat unless he knew them, and certainly there was no forcible entry, so I'm convinced that he knew his attacker, whoever it was.
And whoever did attack him stabbed him many, many times, so there'd have been quite a lot of blood.
Yes, and I would appeal again to anyone who, on the early hours of Tuesday, the 4th of January, came home with blood-stained clothing. There must be someone out there to whom that would apply, and if someone could ring in with that information, we'd be most grateful.
The one person you know so far that you need to eliminate is the Asian man with the ponytail who was seen coming from the direction of Derick's flat on the 2nd of January in the evening.
Yes, we know he was a regular visitor. He may have nothing to do with the murder of Derick, Kiley, but we'd still like to trace this individual to eliminate him and find out what Derick was doing on the Sunday.
And we've got a description of him.
That's right. He's about 25 years of age, slim build, 6 foot tall, and the video fit is a good likeness to him.
Now, if anybody can help in this case, there's a reward as well, isn't there?
There is a very substantial reward offered by Crime Stoppers. Yes, that's right.
Well, if you can help with any information to take this investigation further, please do ring us. The number here in the studio is 0500 600 600, or you can contact Gypsy Hill Police Station direct, and that number is 071 326 1212. That's 071 326 1212.
Children stealing from an old woman in the street. The woman, Mrs. Christina Gray, happened to have osteoporosis or brittle bone disease.
782, 77. 5 and 8, 58. 2 and 4, 24. 1 and 8, 18. 7 and 3, 73. 6 and 3, 63. 7 and 4, 74. 7 and 8, 78. 4 and 5, 55.
I thought that was going to be my lucky turn then. How about you, Het?
Another £3 down the drain. Never mind. Come on, let's go and have a coffee, Chris.
Bingo was her main hobby. You know, it's a way of socialising. She enjoyed life. She made the best out of what she had. The osteoporosis, when it hit her, she was bedridden. But I mean, that would last a week, and then she'd be back out up to Bingo and feeding her cats. You know, cats were her main thing. She really had a will about her and a will to live. She was an amazing woman in the respect that there she is heading off up that hill, which I try and avoid at the best of times myself. Even if it was just to get her newspaper, if that's what she had to get, she'd go.
These boys were crossing the road in front of me, and they were lurking around. They looked like 2 little boys up to mischief. They say I have a beady eye, and when they saw me, they hurried out. I couldn't see much of them because they had scarves and hats, and I just thought 2 little boys up to mischief. Not evil.
Security video shows Mrs. Gray and her friend left the club at 3:55.
You're going shopping now?
No,
already. I'm off home.
Oh, I'll walk along with you then.
Thanks, that's nice.
Take care then, won't you?
And you, Hec. See you Wednesday.
A witness saw two women walking up Lansdowne Place. One was Mrs. Gray. The other is crucial to the inquiry because of something she might have seen. Do you know who she is or where she was going?
When I first turned into the road, it was nothing out of the ordinary. It's just as you get further down the road that I noticed there was something in the road there. I thought, what on earth's that?
Are you okay? What's happened?
I've been attacked. Two black boys, they swung me round and threw me down, then they ran off up there, up Fox Hill. I think I've done something to my leg. Oh, I just want to get home. It's just down the road.
Mrs. Gray's hip was broken, and so was her arm. 5 hours later, she died in hospital of her injuries and shock.
Crime Brown, the best we can say is they couldn't have meant to kill her.
I accept that they possibly didn't mean to kill her, but nevertheless, this was a terribly cowardly attack on a frail, defenceless old lady. Having said that, I do believe that the lads responsible would have got a shock. They realised that they had, in actual fact, murdered Mrs. Gray. And I also believe that because of that, they will have spoken to somebody about what they actually did. And I would appeal, because there is a reward on offer for anybody with information as to the identity of these kids, to get in touch straight away.
Well, if you can help, 0500 600 600, remember, call us here straight away. The kids were, I mean, they were only kids, probably 12, 14, we're not sure of their age. There was another witness, though, that you're very keen to see. We saw her briefly in the film. She's quite petite,
right.
5 foot, who was walking up Lansdowne Place at the same time.
That's right. She was a few yards behind the victim, and I'm quite sure that she must have seen either the attack or, at the very least, the lads run off after attacking Mrs. Gray.
This is Saturday, the 18th of March. And there are some other people that you want to try and trace, again as witnesses.
That's
Two
right.
young men seen in the area. Tell us about them.
Well, they were seen on the morning of the attack on several occasions. We have an EFIT of the elder one of the two. He's described as black, aged about 20, 5'10". He was scruffily dressed with unkempt afro hair, and his companion was aged a bit younger, 16, 17, about 5'7". We need to trace these people and to eliminate them if they can't help us with the inquiry.
OK, there could be brothers, I gather, from the description, but your concern is that almost certainly they've seen something even if they don't recognise its significance themselves.
That's correct.
OK. Please call us if there's any way you can help them, particularly if you think you know who these two main suspects are, the kids themselves, or if they've talked to you. 0500 600 600. Remember, it's a free call. And the detectives are here, but you can speak to a BBC researcher if you prefer, or call the Addington Police Station in South London direct. That's on 0181 649 1414. 0181 649 1414. Now, there's nothing strange about the fact that Crimewatch often appeals to criminals, perhaps in more ways than one. The fact is, they often hold the key to solving cases. But of course, they also have their own moral code, even if it isn't exactly yours or mine, and almost all stop a long way short of murder. In this case, the victim was herself something of a petty crook. In fact, she was on a community service order when she died. She was pretty loud, she was boisterous, she was what they call a character, well known in South London as a go-between, a pickpocket and a thief.
This is Northcote Road in Clapham, 2 days before Jill Williams died. Somehow she'd come into several £100s and went straight to the pawnbrokers, where she used to lodge her jewellery whenever she was short of cash.
Hello, love. Hi, Jill. Hello, love. How are you? I'm fine, you? Yeah, fine. Good.
Oh, Jill was in one fantastic mood. She was really bubbly. She was getting her jewellery out.
Where's that Nigel?
Hello, Jill. You all right there?
Yeah. How are you? Yeah. £212. Is that right?
That's right.
Right.
That's it. That particular day, she came in and she took out the majority of her jewellery, which was unusual. She'd try and take out a piece at a time, but this particular day she came and she took the majority of it all out. A ball with all coloured stones in, which she loved.
I love me bauble.
A pendant, another chain and a ring. And she said that she was coming back next week to get the rest of the jewellery out, which I think were 2 bracelets.
Jill's jewellery was like her best friend, if you like. I mean, that was everything she owned, basically. I mean, I even said to her, you're crazy to walk about with that sort of jewellery on. Like, people can't resist it. But no, that was Jill. She didn't care. That was hers. She'd had it for a long time. And she did love her jewellery. There's no two ways about it.
This is Ribblesdale Road in Tooting. Jill had lived here for some 20 years. The Tuesday before she died, her upstairs neighbour remembers she had visitors.
I left to go to work at about 10:30. Came down with the cat food to leave with Jill, and I was quite surprised to see that the kitchen door was closed, which was unusual because it was nearly always propped open.
Yeah?
Oh, sorry, I was just going to put the food down for the cat.
Oh, I'm a bit busy right now, love.
It was quite obvious that Jill didn't want me to see what was going on. I knew most of Jill's usual friends and callers, but I didn't recognise this guy. I'd never seen him before. He was early to mid-20s, a very slight olive complexion, about 6 foot tall, dark, short hair and quite pale eyes.
All right, love, I'll do it later.
All right, then. Cheers, Jill.
Yeah. Bye-bye, love.
Bye.
Bye.
And I got the impression that a third person was in there with them.
3 days later, the night she died, Friday, June the 21st.
Thank you. It's your change. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hello, Mina. Hello. In a box of matches, love. Yeah.
155, please.
Thank you.
You got a lot of jewellery on. You going out today?
Might do later, love.
Thank you.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
I'd been for a drink after work with some friends on the Friday night. Got home around 9 o'clock. I could hear that Jill was home in the lounge. The TV was on and I got the impression that she had company. There was certainly some low conversation going on.
You're going to need more than one.
So I went upstairs, made myself a meal, put a film on, which I watched quite late into the night.
Maria's been packing up since morning.
Tell Arnold I'm ready, Marie. Tell him he can get the bag. Yes, madame.
Jill often had late-night visitors, but at 1:30, a neighbour opposite saw someone he didn't recognise.
There was something strange which woke me from my sleep. I got up out of bed and pulled the curtain back and had a look down into the street. I saw a car under the sodium light. It looked like it was a light fawn-coloured car. Beside the car there was a lady who could have been talking, who could have been paying a fare. She was average build, probably somewhere between 5'2", 5'4", fair hair. The woman walked from the car across the road and into Jill Williams' house. I thought she may have had keys to admit herself, but didn't see her after that. There was nothing left, only the shadows.
Who is it? Who is it?
Not me at all. Know what it means to me.
Well, I don't know where he's been tonight.
I can't do this to you. Oh, yes, I can.
Next morning, Saturday, June the 22nd.
I was working Saturday morning. A man came in, I think he was white. I can't really remember much. People are so busy. You don't really focus on that one person.
That'll be 265, please. Great. Thank you. Won't keep you a minute.
The tickets have numbers on them, so I checked the number and I gave the item back to the man.
There you go. 2 gold ID bracelets.
And it was only later that I discovered they were Jill Williams' ticket.
I didn't leave the flat until around 2 o'clock on the Saturday afternoon.
Paul?
Yeah?
I'm going to get paper. Do you want anything?
No, no thanks.
All right.
I could see that Jill's flat had very obviously been turned over. I looked into the kitchen and could see the disarray.
Jill?
I pushed the lounge door open, and that's when I found her.
Jill Williams had been beaten and then suffocated. Her beloved jewellery and her pawn tickets had gone.
Brian Henderson, the woman visitor, the late night visitor. You've got to trace her, obviously.
That's correct. She was about 5'5" in height, with dark blonde hair and a pleat or a bun. Very little known about her at all, but she was likely to be the last person to see Jill alive. It's still unclear whether she actually was at Jill's flat on the Thursday night or the Friday night, but it's imperative that we speak to her to eliminate her. I'm sure she has useful information about Jill and possibly the murder itself.
Now, 3 or 4 days before the murder, we've got this chap and possibly one other person in Jill's kitchen. Don't want to be seen. Presumably there's some deal going on there they're not too keen on anybody else knowing about. Now, supposing that guy or those people watching, they would like to help you solve this murder. They certainly don't want to be connected to it, but perhaps they were involved with a drugs deal or something like that. Are you going to prosecute them for a drugs deal if they come forward?
If I can say this, that our primary role is to deal with the murder of Jill Williams, not with extremely minor drugs offences. I do not want to make that an issue to deter people from contacting us.
Okay, let's take a look at that man. Tell us what you can about him.
He's about 6 foot in height, slim, dark hair, sort of olive complexion. Can I just stress, he's not a suspect, but he'll certainly have useful information about Jill.
This is elimination, and this is a replica of one of the principal items of jewellery that was stolen. As you can see, it's pretty distinctive. If anybody has offered you anything like that, or you've suddenly seen something like this in South London, let us know. Do call if you can help. 0500 600 600. The call costs you nothing. 0500 600 600. And apart from the studio, lines are open now to the incident room on 0181 649 2604. That's 0181 649 2604. It's quite shocking. A crime in a family house in Sutton in Surrey, southwest of London. It happened on Friday, the 2nd of July.
Morning. Why do you always get up so late? You're letting the summer pass you by. Well, this is early for me.
My relationship with my grandfather was more than a typical grandfather-grandson relationship. Because I was the first grandson in the family, he loved me very, very much. My first initial thought was that maybe some heavy object has fallen down or something like that.
Sanjay! Shahid! They've hit me! They've hit me! Go! Call the police!
Sutton, 2 men are trying to...
I just heard the second shot and that made me panic over the phone. I just wanted to put down the phone and run downstairs, but I was still believing that nothing has happened, everything's going to be fine at the end.
These are killers. The second shot hit Mohammed Raja in the head. The gunman is average height, slim and in his 30s, and had a day's growth of beard. His accomplice is 6'1", in his late 20s. The moustache might not be real.
I was totally devastated. I did not know what had happened, what had struck us. It was like the end of the world for me. I would not like any other family or any other person in the whole world to go through what we've been through.
About 20 minutes later, half a mile away.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
Did you hear the bang or see the two men run off? Anything you noticed might be critical. The vehicle was bought in northeast London 3 weeks earlier. The buyer may be innocent. We badly need to find him. He's described as early 20s, stocky, 5'10", unshaven and with short black hair.
All right, you take it easy. Great. Well, thanks very much.
Note the Arsenal sticker, the yellow hubcaps. There were green stripes on the side and, until the murder, Thunderbird 2 on the front sign. Where was this van parked for most of June, until the day before the murder?
On Thursday morning I saw a white van on Mulgrave Road, and the van was quite distinctive. On Friday I was jogging as usual, and I noticed the van again. I stopped to cross over, and they actually stopped to let me cross the road. I felt a little apprehensive at the time, but the driver was staring at me.
She describes him as late 20s, Asian or mixed race, with black, wavy and untidy hair. He had 2 accomplices. This time the van was being driven, rather badly, by a man of similar appearance. This is a different EFIT, but it's largely the same description as that given by the jogger 4 hours earlier.
On a motive, have you got one? Mohammed Raja was a landlord. Did he have disgruntled tenants? Why did this happen?
Well, this is quite possible he did. He also was a property developer. One of the important things of the appeal tonight is to ask for anybody that knew Mohammed Raja in his business dealings or as a tenant to please contact us here this evening or at the incident room. But moreover, we're very anxious. We believe that the perpetrators of this dreadful crime clearly planned it, and we would therefore ask that if they have spoken to anybody, which I'm sure that they have, anybody involved in the planning, please contact us here tonight or the incident room. You know, nobody deserves in this world to be killed in the way that Mohammed Raja was murdered at his own front doorstep in the presence of his own family.
So you want anybody, first of all, who knew Mohammed Raja at all, at any time?
Yes, at any time.
You really want to find out as much about his background as you can, even if people who think they know nothing about it?
Absolutely. I'm convinced that they will be able to offer some contribution towards the investigation.
And you're pretty clear that there are some people who do know something about this. Whoever did this will have blabbed or word would have got out.
I think the way it's been planned, that clearly these people who have been involved, without doubt, had mentioned it to someone else. And it's those people that I would ask to come in touch, get in touch with us here this evening.
Now, why, if these people had planned it so carefully, did they then use a van that was so distinctive? I mean, people must have seen this vehicle.
Well, I think this is probably part of their plan. I accept that the vehicle, which is so distinctive, it was purchased on the 11th of June. There was some 21 days where it's been unaccounted for until the time of the murder. It is so distinctive, and somebody must have seen it, either parked outside of their house, or perhaps on a motorway, or even in a petrol station. Somebody must have seen that van, and I would appeal to anyone, no matter how insignificant they think the sighting may have been, please contact us here tonight.
So anybody who knew Mohammed Raja,
yes,
anybody who has heard anything on the grapevine about this, anybody who's seen that van?
Very much so. If there's been any overhearing of conversations, or anyone who's got any information about The people responsible for this crime, I urge them to contact us here tonight.
All right, Chris, thank you. If there's anything then that you can add, here's the number, 0500 600 600, or you can ring the incident room, of course. That's 0181853 1212. Easy number to remember, 01818 853 1212. Or a youth club, because this part of the programme is going to be used in a concerted campaign to get at a group of boys who might very well not watch Crimewatch Live. They're involved in a murder which affected the whole nation back in November.
Police are hunting for the killers of a 10-year-old boy who was stabbed to death.
He dragged himself 100 yards to escape his attacker.
I feel sorry for his parents, I really do.
The family of 10-year-old Damilola left the scene of the murder.
Shock and outrage not just in this house, but right across the country.
I mean, look at the boy there, his innocent little face. How could anyone do that to him?
He was found slumped at the bottom of this stairwell.
This has long been a notorious estate, but many felt that it was just beginning to turn the corner.
Somebody, somewhere, knows something, and for some reason is sheltering the perpetrators of this crime.
Scotland Yard said they would continue the high-profile operation. Parents decided a memorial service was the only way to remember his life and mourn his death. His brother delivered the tribute.
The only thing I did not offer him was protection from his killers on that fateful day. Damilola, I know you are resting peacefully in the Lord's arms. Please forgive me for not being there for you.
Well, after all that, how can we get people to come forward now? We'll take a look at this. Damilola's mother, Gloria, his father, Richard, and his brother, Tundi, helped us to retell the events leading up to his death.
Lagos, capital of Nigeria, where Damilola's family lived and his father was a civil servant. Damilola's sister Bemi was born in London, but in Lagos her epilepsy became so dangerous the family decided to bring her back.
We had problems with obtaining drugs. This was as a result of shortages. So we decided if we cannot get the drugs and we cannot continue to see her suffer, we had to take a decision. So we held a meeting amongst the family, and we decided that, well, Bemi has to go back.
As a temporary measure, the family went to live with Damilola's great-aunt on the North Peckham estate. Mr. Taylor's job meant he had to stay in Nigeria. Damilola was enrolled into a local school.
He had this ambition of studying medicine so that he can get a cure for the sister's ailment. When the sister goes into fit, he's always there to take care of her, you know, to comfort her. And whenever she comes around, he's always there. You know, he's such a talented boy. He was very talented.
It's a boy that cares and is always concerned about everybody's welfare.
On Monday morning, Damilola left home for school as usual, wearing his silver puffer jacket. He often walked with friends, but after school he was on his own when he went to the library on Peckham High Street.
I mean, you could see him in the CCTV footage, running off down to the library with no care in the world, just jumping. That's the way his life has always been.
Damilola loved the library because of the computers and met friends here. No doubt other kids were hanging out here too, maybe in the music section. Do you remember someone being picked on? Damilola seemed happy enough when he left at around 4:30 and played briefly with two other children. What's now important is if you know where he went from here, the swimming pool car park next to the library. Think back. What were you doing on the day Damilola died? Did you see anything that could explain which route he took? If you saw anyone else at around 4:30 or 4:45 that Monday afternoon between the library and Blake's Road, please give us a call.
I was passing along Blake's Road. It was getting dark. It was a bit chilly as well. I saw a patch on the floor, which I thought was a squashed tomato. When I went a bit further, I saw another patch which was larger, and I realised it was blood. I kept following the blood to see what was going on. He went up the stairs of the block of flats. I saw this boy, which he made eye contact with me. You know, he was like, help me quick, be with me. And I realised he was hurt, blood was running through his leg. It was horrible.
The attack probably took place on Blake's Road itself. It's a fairly busy street and there must have been others about. Over 600 people have already come forward to give statements. If you were around and haven't yet helped, now is the time to do it. Maybe whoever stabbed Damilola only meant to mark him, but the blade severed Damilola's artery, and by the time he'd made his way into the stairwell, he was virtually beyond help. One of the many people who visited the scene and now joins the appeal is one of Radio 1's dream team, DJ Spoonie.
You know, if it was you or one of your friends that has done this, I know, you know, respect from your friends, from the rest of the boys, you know, in your gang, in your crew, on the estate is all important. I was one of those people. But, you know, something like this deserves no respect whatsoever. OK, it's happened now. We can't change the fact that it's happened now. If you are going to earn any respect at all, it will be to come forward, whether you're the person that did it or you know who did it. Someone knows, because not a lot went on when I was growing up on the estate without you knowing who did it or no sign who know who did it. So we're just asking you to please come forward for Damilola and for Damilola's family.
I never expected such thing to have happened to such a lovely boy. Because having even spoken to him that Saturday, I never knew I was talking to him for the last time.
The only memory I have of him now is that I just see him smiling. That's it. See him smiling all the time. That's all I can ever think of him, smiling.
Trevor's just so desperately sad. Are you any closer to catching Damilola's killers?
I've got a lot of information in the inquiry which is telling me that those responsible are probably a group of young people not much older than Damilola himself. I believe that the injury that actually caused Damilola's death was probably inflicted by a single member of that group. And whilst I'm conducting a murder inquiry, I am alive to the possibility that Damilola's death could have been unintentional.
If one of the gang who was there, who didn't actually do it, but saw what happened, if one of them comes forward to you now, they're going to get into a lot of trouble, aren't they?
Somebody who saw the incident, didn't take part, is a witness, and a witness that we desperately need to speak to. And I would appeal to members of the family of that individual who are probably well aware of what happened and could well be under a lot of pressure. Please come forward. I would say to the young person involved, you must come forward. You need to tell us what happened, and you need to get this off your chest at an early opportunity.
Now, if you're going to treat that person as a witness, can you protect them?
Absolutely, and I will give an undertaking here and now that anyone that comes forward as a witness and fears that they may be intimidated or members of their family may suffer as a result of talking to us, we will protect them, and I can give an undertaking.
So even if they were in the gang, they saw what happened, you will treat them as a witness. What if they don't come forward?
Well, what I would say then is they would leave me with no alternative but to believe that they were in some way involved with Damilola's death. I would say to them, we're not going away. We're going to keep coming. We're going to keep coming back to the estate. We will catch these individuals. And if they don't come forward, they can find themselves in an awful lot of trouble.
OK, Trevor, well, you heard it there. Come forward. It's going to be a lot worse for you if you don't. The number to call is 0500 600 600, here to the studio. And there are other detectives standing by in the incident room. That's on 020 8247 4567.
As it was in 1993. It happened in Clapham in South London, and it now offers one of the biggest rewards in British criminal history, £100,000.
Kwame was big from infancy. As an adult, Kwame was a gentle giant.
He was only on the beat for about 3 years. At 40 years old, Patrick decided not to be a school teacher, to join the Metropolitan Police Force, to go through the training, and I admired him greatly for that.
Hernias.
Okay. Name 2 different types. Inguinal and abdominal.
Right. Come on, give it to Righty now. Come on.
It's terrible. Yeah, what? I don't know. Yeah, it is him. He must have been here when I was out. Yes, I have called the police.
I was asked, could I go to a call in Cato Road. Meanwhile, Patrick was out and about in his bike that night and called up to say that he could actually go to that call for me because he was just round the corner.
Everywhere, the books and
the officer came in, it was about 9:05, and he started to take a statement.
Where's Kwame? Kwame! What? Kwame. Is he there? Where's Kwame?
It's next door.
What?
It's next door.
Shut up, man.
I've been away for 2 weeks.
You've been, so the flat had been empty?
Away with murder there, Brian, and luckily there was
The noise was something like bang, 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 bang.
750, shots fired, Cato.
Those three guys came out
Get back inside.
and they started shooting.
Come on. I've seen that guy, right? Come on.
As we pulled up, we came across what turned out to be a double murder, and I knew that there was going to be no hope for Patrick living at all. And that was probably within 10 seconds of being with him.
It's me, I told them where he lived. There was a knock on the window, wasn't there? When I come up the door, and I told him he just lives down there.
My mum bought the newspaper on a Thursday morning, turned the page and found her son's photograph and a headline that he's been shot, and she collapsed.
Around 11:15 at night, a police officer knocked on the door and he asked if I had a brother, PC Patrick Dunn, and I said yes. And the moment he asked that question, I thought, my goodness, what's happened? It really hit home when we heard Patrick's name mentioned on the news.
PC Patrick Dunn had been called to a minor disturbance at a house in Clapham in what police say was a tragic coincidence.
This was Patrick, this was my brother. He doesn't get into situations like this. Patrick always succeeded. And suddenly to know that we would never see him again, one can't describe what that does to you inside.
The other man was found dead nearby. He too had been shot in what may have been a drugs-related killing.
The media coverage of the whole incident was very negative, and I just shut myself out. I didn't want to talk to anybody.
In fact, the reason for Kwame's death is still a mystery. So far as is known, he was never involved in crime or serious drugs. But somebody knows something. 8 months after the murder, somebody rang Crime Stoppers. The message was, if you want to find the killers, you should go to Wandsworth Cemetery and search. When police arrived, lipstick marked the spot. Two guns were wrapped in a plastic carrier bag. They were forensically linked with Pat and Kwame's deaths and other shootings too. Now, 8 years on, the investigation has been renewed and has a new lease of life.
I don't know if relief is the word. We couldn't come to terms with even asking ourselves the questions because there were no answers to them. And I mean, until my mum died, I found out that she's been carrying Kwame's photographs in a handbag throughout the period.
The pain is still there 8 years later, because we know Patrick should have been around. He should be here.
Somebody knows who killed William Kwame Danzo. Perhaps several people know. And someone knows who killed Patrick Dunn. If they help prove it, they'll get £100,000. Gary, 8 years on, who is it you particularly want to hear from now?
We're looking for two types of people: witnesses that were witnesses at the time that didn't come forward for various reasons, and that people that have become witnesses since the actual murder. Specifically people that have had the crime relayed to them by the suspects. Clearly the people responsible, they wouldn't have gone away and kept quiet about this. You've seen them on the video putting the guns in the air, laughing and shouting. They were pleased with what they did. They would have bragged to people. Those people are now witnesses to the murder, and we want those people to come forward and collect the £100,000 reward.
Now, both people in the street at the time who didn't come forward and people who heard about this subsequently are very likely going to be frightened. I mean, physically frightened of what might happen.
We understand that they'd be frightened of these people, and they have reason to do that. However, we will offer them every bit of available protection, and we will ensure that they are protected if they come forward and give the evidence to us.
Now, I want to just delve into that if I can. I mean, this is serious stuff. Somebody may very well want to claim the £100,000, but you're going to need them to give evidence. It's no good them just saying, well, here's a name, because you've got a long list of names I know. You need somebody who's actually going to appear. Now, they're going to be, as I say, very frightened. What level of protection can you give them?
We'll do absolutely anything that's required to protect them, and that can be from one end of the scale, just moving them out of the house that they live in, to the other end of the scale, moving houses, moving town, moving out of the country, changing names, moving the children away from the area. Anything that's required, we will do.
You can guarantee that?
Absolutely guarantee it.
Are you any closer to knowing what the original motive for this was? You've pretty much discounted drugs or crime.
It was said at the original media appeal that he was involved in drugs. He did smoke cannabis, and we think he supplied cannabis to friends and associates.
But this is small-time stuff like many other people.
Clearly wouldn't have been the motive for his murder, and we still don't know why he was murdered, but we're satisfied it wasn't because of his involvement in drugs.
So, again, people who know why Kwame was singled out, I mean, that's important to hear from them as well, isn't it?
Yeah, he was singled out, as it shows from the video, and those people, we want them to come forward and explain why he was picked out.
OK. Well, this is not one for anonymous calls, please. Unless you've got some decisive evidence, that is, that stands on its own, we need to hear from you with your name, particularly if you want to claim that reward. 0500 600 600, or you can call the Murder Inquiry Room on 020 8247 8275. It's just one good call that we need to make a difference.
Than fiction, they say, and this next case is certainly strange. There's one public-spirited and brilliant witness, and your own actress read part of the statement that she made to the police. But what happens is baffling, unless you can help explain it.
We start with the witness in the Fridge Bar in Brixton in South London late one Sunday night, way back in February. She'd met a group of men, one of whose names she thinks was Andy.
I'd been drinking since 5 o'clock, and I was absolutely trolleyed. Everyone else was drunk as well. I don't think Andy was, because he'd been drinking Coca-Cola all night.
I've got to go home, I'm tired.
I've got my van here. I'll take you home.
No, it's fine, I'll manage.
It's not a problem. I've got my friends here. I've got to take them back anyway.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Just down the road, Sinead Clark was walking home with her boyfriend Paul. They'd both been out with friends in a local pub.
Oh, I've drunk too much.
Yeah, so have I. Listen, I'm just going to go get some fans, okay?
All right, I'll wait here. And hurry up, it's freezing.
Where are you going?
We all got into the back, apart from Andy's mate, who got in the passenger seat.
Cheers, mate. Cheers. All right, easy.
your car then?
Yeah. Drive it for my job.
We drove up Brixton Hill Road. We were all going to my house.
The witness remembers 2 of her fellow passengers were English. One might have been called Dave. The man sitting opposite her was Irish.
Happy now?
Yeah, you're warming up.
Oh, look at it.
And where did you come from?
Kildallery.
Kildallery. Kildallery?
Yeah, Joe.
No. I know Kildallery. So where do you live now?
Croydon.
No way.
So, what's the best way to get to your place then?
Oh, don't worry about it. Just keep going. I'll tell you when to turn off.
Okay.
Come on, let's cross over here.
Sinead, no!
So as I was saying, you know, I was just trying to explain to this guy, you know, what's his problem. Give me this story about that, you know, I've got no problem.
I think we just hit someone.
No, we didn't.
No, we did. I think we hit someone.
Hey, hey! I saw that. I saw everything.
Please don't tell anyone. Please don't tell anyone.
Hey, get in here! Get in here! Come in here! Come on, man. Come on. Go!
I'm going. No.
Hang on, please, hang on.
Come on.
I was in such a state. I just got in behind him and shut up. There was something sinister about him. I don't know why. It's just a feeling I have.
Who was the driver of the blue Renault? Why did he behave the way he did? Was he a friend of the other driver?
Sinead, come on, please, baby. Please. Help me. Will somebody help me? Somebody, please. Help me. Come on, please, hurry up. She's been run over, please. Sinead, come on, baby.
All the days that we were in the hospital, sitting by her bed, falling asleep with my head on her bed, waking up a few hours later, or in my head all the time. And I'm glad we had that time. Really glad I had that time with her. Because we were all saying goodbye in our own way.
I went to the police the next day. I've only just found out the person died.
It's gone down the hill, towards Brixton.
Yeah, I don't know, I can't remember.
Did you get a registration number at all?
I didn't see, it was just...
I miss seeing her and seeing her smile, and holding her, and talking to her. It's very difficult.
Well, this is the driver of that white Renault van. He was dark-skinned with a chunky build. He was in his 30s, we think, with a London accent, about 5'10". Back in February, he had shaved his head. Liz, you've got this really courageous witness. So you've got quite a lot of stuff. You haven't got the other people in the van to come forward. What on earth do you think all that was about, this
I don't know.
moving cars?
It could be that he had no insurance, that the driver of the white van. We don't know why the blue car pulled up next to the white van and took all the passengers out. All we know is his family. The family is distraught. Sinead's mother is heartbroken.
But you think this was an accident? And you think Andy, I mean, you don't think he was drunk or he wasn't on drugs or anything like that?
Say that he was drunk or had been taking drugs or had been driving badly. But we need him to come forward. He failed to stop after an accident. We'd like to say that from all the accounts we have from the witness, he seems quite a nice bloke.
A nice
bloke? Yes, a nice bloke. It's not a major crime. We need him to come and talk to us, assuage the family's grief. They need to know why she died, how she died, how it happened. And I would really like to talk to the driver, the witnesses who are in the van, anyone who knows anything about the accident, and also any cab drivers who might have taken a girl and an Irish man back home, Tooting and Croydon, later on that night from the Brixton area.
Okay, this is Sunday night, actually. We're doing early Monday morning and back in late February. You've brought bits of a vehicle from a Renault van here, including this headlamp. Now, what's the significance of this? Presumably this, something like this got broken during the...
Yeah, that got broken, the glass was left at the scene, so we've identified the type of van that was used. It was either R-Reg or P-Reg. We'd like to know anyone who repaired a bumper and a light in the following week after the accident, anywhere in London, really.
Or a factor or garage that remembers supplying these things that people did themselves. Okay, well, if you can help in any way, I don't think we've ever had a police officer on Crimewatch say of someone they're looking for that we think he's a nice bloke. Andy, or whoever you are, if you're watching, whoever those passengers are, you haven't broken the law, for heaven's sake, give us a call. If anybody's heard anything about this, 0500 600 600 or 020 8649 2940.
It's outrage. So it's surprising that our next case didn't really make the headlines.
This one's a year old, but in South London, kids are still covering up for their friends, and if any of them does the decent thing tonight and calls, he or she could earn a big reward.
21 years I've known Hilda. Since I lived there, I moved in 1981. Hilda was a very determined person. She went to see her husband Ted every day in the nursing home at Union Road. I used to walk round the paper shop and get Hilda a paper every day and deliver it to her by 8:30. And I went, had a cup of tea and a biscuit with Hilda, then I always left her by 9 o'clock.
On Monday the 30th of April last year, Richard went with Hilda to the shops, but he came home while she stayed on to pick up some dry cleaning.
And the next time I see Hilda, she was laying outside at the bottom of her stairs, injured.
Hilda came back from shopping at lunchtime. She later told Richard that she'd passed two 15 or 16-year-olds on the ramp leading to Langport House.
She said two black youths had attacked her at the top of the stairs and threw her down, and her head hit the bottom wall at the bottom of the stairs. Then they took her bag and whatever in the pockets, her bus pass and everything, and I didn't know it was Hilda until I got to her, and she said to me, "Why me? Why me, Richard?" I said, "I don't know." Hilda died on her 86th birthday at 6:30 in the evening. I went to the hospital at 10:30 in the morning, took some flowers and card.
Her bag was dumped, but they stole a small amount of cash, her bus pass and her Tesco loyalty card.
Let me tell you a little bit about Hilda. She lived in Brixton since 1939. She was a school dinner lady until well into her 60s. She didn't have any children of her own, but she doted on her nephews and nieces. Look, this is her with her great niece in this photo here. Do you know who killed her? The number's up there. Give us a call.
Yeah, and it goes back to 1976. Jeff Small was a father of two who ran Sheila's newsagent in Westmead Road in Sutton, Surrey.
How's the wife and kids? All right, they're fine, thank you.
The business used to be my grandparents', and when they retired, my father took over the shop.
How's your job and everything? Nah, it's going a bit dodgy.
He worked very hard and built it up.
I'll see you later on, yeah?
He was very popular. He used to say that working in the shop was like going on stage. Even if he felt rough or he was tired or had a headache, he always used to go out there with a smile. He had a job to do, and he was a person's person, definitely. My father used to get up early in the morning because the papers would be delivered to the shop. All his friends and all the people that live locally knew that he had his routine. They would know what time the shop would open, what time the shop would shut.
Someone must have gone in through the side gate of the shop. From a later statement, we know he looked a bit like this. He was then in his mid-40s and fairly small.
We used to live where the shop was, but we just moved away. We wanted to have a separate home away from the shop premises so that we could feel like we had somewhere to escape to and be a proper family together. And he achieved that. But in fact, we'd only been there a month, so he really didn't live to appreciate it, which was very sad.
Not many people knew they'd moved out of the shop, nor that while the shop had an alarm system, it didn't protect the rooms at the back. The killer took Jeff's wallet and a holdall containing the takings from the shop.
He did have a couple of regular customers that were coming off night shifts and things, and although he wasn't really open, he always used to let them in and serve them.
Morning.
Good morning.
He was wearing a check jacket and dark trousers, and the witness said he was slim and only 5'5".
He had a couple of people that used to come in and help him mark up the papers for the paper rounds, so they used to be in the shop very early.
Thank you, everyone.
These were left behind. I found them on the cooker hood.
Okay, good.
Whoever got in through the window had unusually small feet, size 6.
I still feel very angry after 26 years that somebody has murdered my father and taken his life away. It would be nice for him to see his children grown up with their own children. You know, I wonder, would he be proud of me? I mean, I've done nothing special, but, you know, would he be proud of me the way I've turned out and the way my brother's turned out? And we'll never know.
Jamie, and obviously the family have been living with this throughout, but why have you suddenly returned to it with such energy and such resources?
Well, we've received significant new information that we've been working on for some months now. Yes, it's 26 years later, but 26 years down the line we haven't closed the books, and we're determined to achieve justice for the small family.
What sort of information have you got?
Well, for operational reasons I can't disclose this at the moment, but suffice it to say that we're working on significant leads at the moment.
The description of the guy who was coming out of the side gate beside the shop, and that's presumably the killer, is actually a pretty good one. He's fairly small, 5'6", very small shoes, 6 foot. Just remind us whatever else you know about him.
Well, he was 5'5", 5'6" tall, white. He had dark frizzy hair. He was wearing a fawn jacket with brown checks on it, and significantly a foot impression was left at the scene, which was a size 6. Which at the time was very significant and still is now. It represented 2.5% of the male adult population.
Yes,
so quite significant.
He'd be what? He'd be in his early 70s now, presumably.
That's right, yes. He was about 45 years of age at the time.
And the sort of guy he was, it was intriguing watching that reconstruction, how he got in. Was he a burglar? How did he know how to get into the premises like that?
Well, clearly he was very versed in breaking into this shop. Perhaps the individual concerned was a very experienced burglar.
It was thought at the time, and there was press publicity at the time saying whoever did it was a professional assassin. Was he all that professional? If you looked at the reconstruction, it looked like the first few shots missed.
Certainly viewed at the time as being a professional contract killing. We take a different view 26 years later. 2 shots that were fired. The first 2 shots completely missed.
Really quite close range?
Absolutely, yes. So clearly not the professional hit that was it was first thought.
Now, you brought this weapon here, which is a Hungarian P-37, thought that was issued to German soldiers during the Second World War. Not very common.
No.
You releasing this information tonight because a gun like this, or something like this, you think is the one that was responsible for the murder, and is still outstanding?
It's a .32 inch caliber, or a 7.65 millimetre caliber. It's one of could have been one of 6 automatic pistols, that being the most likely one. What I'd appeal for is where's that gun now? I'd like to know the whereabouts of that gun, because clearly that's significant information.
I mean, what was the motive for this?
Well, a motive explored at the time and subsequently that was that Mr. Small had an affair. I'm keeping an open mind as to the motive, But clearly this was a contract killing. I'd appeal to anyone who could tell me the name of the killer and perhaps the man or woman that contracted this killing.
Well, it is curious, but Crimewatch really has had extraordinary success with these cold cases, sometimes going back even further than this one. So let's crack this one. Call here or call the incident room on 020 8649 1550. Other terrible incidents were linked to it. It seems now that 3 young people have been attacked in all. One of them, Marsha McDonnell, died. The latest violence happened yesterday, about half a mile from where Marsha was killed, and again it was after midnight. It's revealed new clues. In a moment we'll show you what they are. But first, the most tragic case. Marsha's friends take us through what happened the evening of her death 3 weeks ago.
My dad took us into Kingston because we didn't want to get the bus, basically, because it was freezing cold. So he just dropped us before the bridge and we all walked over.
Well, we'd all arranged to go to the cinema to see Catch Me If You Can. I wanted to see the film because I thought it looked good. Lou and Marsha wanted to see the film because it had Leonardo DiCaprio in uniform in it.
Oh, I don't fancy it. Why are you turning down? Yeah, well, I've got a boyfriend. Oh, I've got a boyfriend.
Marsha was such a big impact on everybody, and if I was ever going out with any of my friends, there was always Marsha coming out. She makes everyone laugh as well.
Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! Look at that! This looks like my dad would wear. No, I think it is your dad. Oh, no, seriously, it's your dad! What are you doing in the window?
Could never ever possibly have an argument with her. I don't see how anyone could have an argument with Marsh.
I didn't think I'd find any that would actually go with the outfit.
I think we got there about half an hour early to see the film. The film was at 9:15, so we literally just had time for one drink, so we weren't in there very long.
It was my 21st birthday, so I was having a party and I wanted it to be a bit different, so I thought we'd have a fancy dress uniform party. And Marshall and Lee were desperately trying to come up with unusual ideas for what I could wear. Crazy ideas they're coming up with.
What about dustmen? Oh yeah, I think that'd be quite fun.
We were a bit late for the film, so we just rushed up to the stairs to get our tickets and then just went straight in.
Hands on your head.
No, that's the new IBM Selectric.
Put your hands on your head.
Print type in 5 seconds.
Shut up!
Pop out the ball.
Put your hands on your head.
The film didn't finish till 10 to 12 and our bus was at 5 to 12, so we had to race out while the credits were coming on.
We got the bus stop quite near where the station is. I don't know Kingston that well, so I just kind of followed them.
No, is this where you were doing?
Our bus was due at 5 to 12. As soon as we got there, me and Tasha got on the bus.
It's all right, wasn't it? It wasn't anything special. Oh, Marsha, here's your bus. Oh, no, it's ours. It's yours. Oh, okay, bye. Take care. I will. I'll see you at the party, yeah? Before then? Yeah. Okay, are you going to be all right? Okay, leave your mobile on. Give you a call, yeah? Okay, bye. See you later. Bye.
Marsha's bus was due every 15 minutes, so we knew she'd pretty much be getting on it in the next 5 minutes after we left.
After a few minutes, Marsha caught the 111 bus at 8 minutes past midnight. Her journey took her back over Kingston Bridge towards her home in Hampton. Marsha got off the bus in Percy Road at the stop after Hampton Station. She walked back down Percy Road and turned right into Priory Road where she lived. The time was approaching 20 past midnight. 20 minutes into Tuesday, the 4th of February.
Darling, wake up. There's something going on outside. I think someone's been hurt. I'm going to call an ambulance. I think I can see blood. Hello? I need an ambulance.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? There's an ambulance coming. You're going to be fine. Just hang on.
Yeah, put it around her shoulders.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Just hang on. If you can hear me, just hang on. There's an ambulance on its way.
Do you know her name at all?
No, nothing. Tried talking to her, but nothing at all. No response.
Marcia had massive head injuries. She was taken to Kingston Hospital, but died next day. She was 19.
Tasha went ahead with her 21st party because we were going to cancel it because of what had happened, but we know that Marcia would be the first person up there dancing about, so we just had the party and said a few words for her.
Yeah, I lit some candles for her. I really think she was there. I feel like she was.
There's a Detective Superintendent, Alistair Jeffrey, not just Marcia, but now 2 other people attacked in the same way, and you're sure they're linked. Why?
Well, we're linking these crimes because there are certain similarities between them all. They're all in fairly close proximity. They're all during the hours of darkness. They all seem random and motiveless, and the weapon used seems to be a blunt instrument in each occasion.
Now, let me just tell you a little bit more about these other 2 attacks to put them in perspective. A 17-year-old girl was found 7 weeks ago in Walpole Gardens in Strawberry Hill. It's about 2.5 miles from where Marcia was found. At first, people thought she'd just fallen on the ice. It was very snowy at the time. But at the hospital, they discovered that she had injuries on the back of her head, an injury probably caused by a blunt instrument. She was very seriously injured. The boy was hit here in Ormond Drive in Hampton. A man swung a heavy object at him twice, but the teenager managed to dodge. Just like Marcia, he'd been on his way home after a night out with friends. He was coming back from Kingston on the N285 bus. He'd got off at Hampton Hill, walked along the Uxbridge Road and into Ormond Drive. And that's where he saw someone, this hasn't been released until now, emerge from behind a wall and run towards him. It was a dwarf wall, so the guy must have been lying down, hiding behind it, which is pretty significant. What else new have you learned from this attack?
Well, really, the most important thing that's come from this attack is for the first time we have some idea of what the attacker looks like. It's not a brilliant description, but we do know that he's fairly tall, probably between 5'10" and 6 foot. He's a fairly slight build, and he did have distinctive clothing on at the time. He was wearing a white hooded top with the hood up, and over that was a dark jacket, also with the hood up, a fairly heavy jacket.
So he had 2 hoods, so he'd really come out protected against the night chill, and it was pretty cold then, of course.
He did have 2 hoods up, yeah.
OK, it's been suggested in one of the papers this morning that he had a hammer. That was the attack weapon. You don't know that for sure, do you?
We don't know it was definitely a hammer. No, it was a blunt instrument of some type. But this type of attack with a blunt instrument is very, very unusual, and it wouldn't surprise us if this person has used that type of instrument on another occasion, perhaps for a minor offence or in some other way. So that could be quite significant.
Or hitting furniture, hitting an animal, somebody who's shown this sort of predilection for violence before like this.
It could be anything like that.
And given, as you say, that it's motiveless, it seems so irrational. Could this be somebody who's been in contact with mental health workers before? I mean, most people who are mentally ill don't get involved in any sort of crime, let alone this. But this seems so irrational. Maybe that's a possibility, a real one.
Well, it is a possibility, and obviously we're appealing to anyone out there who may have treated or may be treating someone they think could have committed an offence like this to come forward. Now, I know some might think that would be a breach of confidentiality, but it's quite clear from the General Medical Council that in actual fact this is in the greater public interest. This is about saving someone's life, potentially. So if anyone has any information like that, please call in.
3 attacks now. This is a real serious danger to public, to the lives of other people in the area. Let me come back to that in a moment. Ask you about the friends of this person, anybody who's a family member. What would they have seen in his personality?
Well, the first attack was in early January, and it may be from that time that his behaviour, this person's behaviour, has changed significantly. And anyone that has seen a change in a friend or a family member that could believe that that's significant, then please call in. Every bit of information is vital.
These last 2 attacks were late on Monday night, early into Tuesday morning. Anything significant in that?
Well, really, the significance of that, I mean, the most recent attack was Monday night, as you say, into Tuesday this week. That person would have got back home if he'd gone straight away at about 3:30 in the morning, potentially, if he's a local man, which we believe he may be.
Now, we spend so much time on this programme telling people, look, serious crime isn't as widespread as often people think, but here in this area around Hampton, this is a real problem now. People have to take precautions. What precautions?
Well, really, we're just saying to people to stay safe. Don't put yourself in a position where you may be attacked. Be very aware of your surroundings. Go out with friends if you've got to go out. Be very careful. Just don't put yourself on offer.
If you've seen anybody who you think is suspicious, particularly if you see someone hiding as this guy was, for heaven's sake, call us here in the studio. If there's a member of your family, a friend who's been behaving oddly, if you are a psychiatrist or part of the psychiatric community, call us in the studio if there's anyone you think the police ought to know about. The number is always on the bottom of the screen, 0500 600 600, or call the incident room on 020 8358 0100. You can also email us. Just go to our website at bbc.co.uk/crime. Inside, as well as anyone who did a stretch between 1990 and 1997.
My mum was 68 when she was murdered, and she was in good health. She did everything for herself. She never asked, anybody for anything. She was fine. She was mum.
Irene Graney was murdered in her flat in Bermondsey, South London, in May 1990. 13 years later, the case remains unsolved.
It was to this ground floor council flat in Rotherhithe that police were called on Saturday evening. A neighbour living above Irene Graney in Eugenia Road alerted them after worries that she hadn't been seen. Officers had to break windows.
It was one of a series of 8 very violent attacks against mainly older women in the London borough of Southwark. Maybe other attacks went unreported, but the known one started in 1988, went on for 18 months, and culminated in Irene's murder. Victims said the rapist was then in his early 20s. He mostly went for ground floor flats and broke in after dark.
Take your clothes off, then I'll go. Be quiet. I won't be violent, but I don't want to hurt you.
When you go,
Be quiet.
I need a cup of tea. I'll make you a cup of tea. Please go, please, please, please.
Be quiet.
Former detective Brian Bowden-Brown is from the Murder Review Group, bringing expertise to long-standing unsolved crimes.
It was originally dubbed the Southwark Rapist series. I came across it because I started to review the murder of Irene Graney. I had no idea at the time that a series of rapes such as these were involved. It's probably the worst series of crimes that I've ever come across. I mean, the violence and the sexual assaults that these old ladies had to suffer is absolutely sickening.
Brian consulted Metropolitan Police crime analysts who look for patterns in behaviour that link crimes.
He asked us to have a look to see what we thought, whether we could confirm that we believed they were committed by the same offender, and also to see if we could come up with any new offences that may have been committed since. To do this, we searched on the language used before one of the offences, where the offender said that he was being chased by some men.
I've just come from the pub and there are 3 black men chasing me.
She found a strikingly similar phrase had been used in many of the attacks between 1988 and 1990. But even more remarkable, after a 7-year gap, it was used again in a quite separate violent burglary in 1997.
We were absolutely convinced it was the same man. The offences had happened within the same small area of Southwark. The victims were elderly and they had a ground floor property.
Oi, mate. Can you help me? 3 people are chasing me. Let me in. Don't even know who you are. Get out.
Minutes later, and next door, this time in the neighbour's bedroom.
Don't turn the lights on. I've got a knife. What do you want? Don't mess with me. I've just finished a 7 stretch.
What he did say was that he had just come out after serving a 7 stretch. Now, that could link in with the fact that we hadn't heard anything from him. He hadn't committed any offences since the murder of Irene Graney in May of 1990. So it could very well be our man, and the fact that he hadn't done anything was that he was in prison.
I'll dig it with this!
Don't hurt him!
We only hint at the level of violence. The man was beaten with a metal towel rail, and the woman was almost strangled.
Give me the money. Come on.
On this occasion, though the victims were badly beaten, they weren't sexually assaulted.
What worries me is that whilst we haven't had any recent offences like this that we believe he's responsible for, he's still out there. He hasn't been brought to justice for this, and we don't know when or if he's going to strike again.
When it first happened, I suppose I just wanted to get hold of him. I wanted to know why. Why pick on somebody that age? And, you know, obviously I'd like to have killed him. But as the years have gone on, I just feel that the man's really sick and he needs help. And somebody out there, he belongs to somebody, they must know. They've got to know. They've got to report it.
Apart from Irene's murder, at least one of the other victims nearly died, and certainly there seemed to be something like attempted murder again and again. It's really the sort of crime that creates revulsion among everyone, which is why we want help tonight from everyone, including those who might recognise the offender from a stretch in prison. This is Brian Bowden-Brown, retired formerly from the police force, but now taking on this in quite a big way. He could, the offender, have been bluffing about being in prison. I mean, and it does make sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. He could be, so we've got to take it really with some caution. But on the other hand, it would add up. No offences since 1990. 1997, he comes back.
Now, if he'd been in for something like this, you would have found him, because you can go through the records. That would have been easy. So it's unlikely he has been convicted for a similar offence.
I wouldn't have thought so. I think this man is a burglar. I think predominantly that's what he does, and I think that's what he did in this particular case. He burgled the victims' homes beforehand. He recognised that there was an elderly lady living there on her own, possibly disabled, Zimmer frame, walking stick, knew she was an easy target, went back later on and subjected them to these dreadful attacks.
Now, there is some evidence that this is the same man who, in 1989, was caught burgling the Great American Wine Company in Southwark, in this area. There he was interrupted by a member of staff.
Oh, I'm going to be mugged by 2 black guys. They're chasing me.
Now, Brian, that's still an important part of your inquiry. Tell us why.
Well, it is, because it links in with some of the other offences. What I'm very interested in is tracing the office manager, a lady by the name of Patricia Peters. Now, I'd like to speak to her because I think that she can give me some very important information, not only about the white guy who she disturbed, but she also saw a black man standing outside, and she was convinced that he was the accomplice of the white man. Now, Patricia Peters, I should say, was born on the 1st of October 1936.
So you know all that, but no one knows where she is. And of course, at the time, this wasn't linked, and she would have no idea that it was linked.
No, not at all.
Now, what about the accomplice? Because the truth is, he probably has no idea it's linked. He might be appalled at what his mate was up to.
Well, exactly, and I'm hoping that he is watching, because I really do desperately need to speak to him.
And if he says, look, I'm very frightened of ringing up because you're now going to do me for this burglary or something like that.
He's got nothing to worry about, Nick, in
You're
relation to
immunity.
burglary. For that type of crime, for burglary, 13 years ago, yes, I am. What I'm interested in is catching the guy who committed these absolutely horrendous crimes on these elderly ladies.
They are so horrendous that the Metropolitan Police themselves have put up a £10,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the killer. If that was you, the accomplice, you've got that offer of immunity, you've got the offer of the reward. For heaven's sake, give us a call. If there's any other way anyone else can help, call us here in the studio or call the incident room on 0207 321 7353.